Warning, the following program contains sensitive material that may be unsettling to some audiences. The Pedantic Pedestrians are not responsible for any injuries or paranormal activity that may occur during the viewing of this program, including, and not limited to, whiplash, bipolar disorder, a sprained ankle, or demonic possession. Viewer discretion is advised.
Two Guns, do you want to, encourage people to respect the host? So funny, Chad!
When you see people laughing. Nah, like, pause it. What did he say? Whenever, it sounds like he said...
Are we live?
Yeah. Duh.
Are we live?
Where is everybody?
Do you read
I see that Ark's in the chat, but then we got a bunch of people in the general voice chat. Those people should be participating.
Shab, tell us why
When all
we're
the
on
Trump tards
time.
come in, we need people here to hold the line.
Yeah, Gene, tell us why we're on time.
Oh, because I kept DMing Chad that he better get in here, or else we're gonna fire him.
So much DMs I got.
Exactly. So, what do you think? So here, Trump shows how much of an altruistic sort of head of state he is, because currently we all know that unlike in Gaza, there is a genocide taking place in South Africa. I mean, Elon Musk, who is one of the greatest geniuses of our time, he's a scientist. He's behind like the Hyperloop. If you talk to him, he'll tell you that what we're really hearing from the press and the historians and everything is that apartheid never really was a thing. It's actually like the white South Africans who are the victims, and they're being targeted, persecuted. And if you look into it and you find out that none of the numbers show that this narrative is true, well, you're just an idiot that believes what any sources tell you. Yes. So let's see these, these starving and victimized sort of South Africans. Let's see, I guess their arrival to the U.S.
Is going to be...
Wait, what the fuck? It's in slow-mo.
You know, I wonder if this is a
like
bug
South
with
Africa.
YouTube. Pause. Because I've played, every video I've played today has been in slow-mo. And I've had to fix it.
I don't know, maybe YouTube's lagging out and everything.
Who are eligible and will be accepted into the United States as refugees under a
We
program
were having
the
some issues
administration
with
has suspended
Discord
for
last
really
night,
about
too. There's
99%.
that.
So, when I've gone on Twitter, Threads, other sites where people are discussing this, you see racism on both sides. Now, I do think this is about race, clearly. I think that you see how Trump has paused any sort of asylum or giving, allowing refugees into the country from places like Sudan or other, ravaged, countries on the planet. And one of the rare groups that he seems to have taken some kind of initiative to reach out to are the white South Africans. And there's this one tweet from a person where they were showing this one memorial, and they're like, each cross is a white South African who's been killed. But that specific memorial, which this was something where it was a few years ago, there was an uptick in criminals going in and abducting or murdering farmers. But they were doing it indiscriminately. There was no sign that white farmers were being disproportionately targeted. So this is a false narrative. And then the person that made that tweet with the memorial, that is a memorial for any farmers that died, regardless of race. And they can't just fact check information. And I really think that, so Elon Musk, his father and stuff, directly participated in apartheid. And he is a apartheid denialist. So this is probably Elon Musk ear feeding things to Trump and Trump just eating it up. But hey, I guess we need more white people in America.
The rest of the world.
Not enough.
It is highly unusual.
But
To
you
be
do see
fair,
race-
it's only like 40 white people.
Yeah, 50. I don't know. If it was 100, I'd be like, no, that's too much. I'm a self-hating white person.
To come in under the refugee program, just as it has been highly unusual since the president took office for any group of refugees to come in. But President Trump has decided that these people, these Afrikaners, white South Africans,
I have
are
white
in need
fatigue. I'm tired of seeing all these stupid cracker ass bitches. Okay, like it's getting old. Get some fucking sun. You
Finally,
pale
Shabisky's on
fucks.
the diversity train. He's okay. Finally, Shabisky's come to terms with Black Velma, Black Shaggy, Black Mermaids. Shabisky's all on
Better
the
not say that to Crow. But there were people posting things on the opposite side that were claiming, oh, get these colonizers out of my country. And that's where you don't fight racism with more racism. All of the people here, they had nothing to do with like those past atrocities. And just because they happen to be of the demographic that had power in that particular political system in the past, that does not automatically mean that their particular relatives were direct participants. So it's just that sort of logic of people should be punished for things that they did in a past life is it's racist. So I'm not going to pretend that it's not racist.
special attention, and he prioritized their processing under this program. And so within 3 months of him saying that, these people, this group of about 50, has already arrived, while asylum seekers, refugee status seekers in other countries, notably Afghanistan, throughout the Middle East, Syria, other parts of sub-Saharan Africa, are
Look at how patriotic they're here.
to even be processed.
Or patriotic they are.
And suspended for the vast majority of the world.
We've only been here for seconds, and they're all ready, waving the U.S. flag. We need more of that.
They're proud to be an American.
What's that?
I was just
They're
gonna
proud
say,
to be
look
an
how-
American.
Yeah. Look how pallid all of them are, Jane.
Oh my God, Shab.
I like the tie on that dude on the
No
left.
one's going to get that. And this is an example of making stupid jokes that have nothing to do with what we're covering.
Unjust racial discrimination would be welcome to come to the United
I'm
States.
literally talking about
and
the
he's now
people on the
delivering
screen,
on that
Jane.
promise.
has to do
Someone who
with
is
it.
granted refugee status or
Jeez.
admitted into the United States under the refugee program will be eligible to apply for U.S. citizenship after a certain period.
Relevant when
So
Jane
Ryan
talks about the
says
people on the
white South
screen.
Africans are allowed in, but Afghan refugees are sent back to die.
Yeah, funny how that works.
Well, we all know that any non-white person in the Middle East, they're part of a Borg and a collective. And
Every
I don't know,
time.
like, what white people are going extinct, and that's a tragedy if you fast forward like 300 years, and based on people having kids with people who don't have the same skin complexion as them, if there are no longer any people that look exactly like us, I mean, oh my God, like if, I'm not racist, but yet I'm deeply concerned with, over time, people, I guess, no longer having the same skin complexion as me. That's such a terrible concept. Isn't that dystopian?
That's
like
a
that.
huge deal.
Yeah.
I don't like that there's any variety at all. I think everybody should just look like me and wear a hat. That'd be neat.
Goddamn right.
A red hat?
Time. It varies depending on the circumstances.
We
but,
could vary
these people-
on the hat colors, I think. you
Yeah,
know.
red hats with various symbols on them. Am I right, fellas?
No, just this color could be different.
Donald Trump's administration is aiming to bring the first group of white
They're
South
all
Africans to the
wearing
United
MAGA
States via
hats because that's
express
true.
Chad, next video.
Sorry.
G program as soon as next week. 3 people familiar with the matter have said. It's a divisive move.
Thank you, Mr. Trump.
Especially given that Trump has been blocking refugee admissions from the rest of the world. 2 of the sources, who requested anonymity as they were sharing internal plans, said their aim is to fly the initial cohort of around 50 Afrikaners into Washington Dulles International Airport in Virginia.
It was like an answered prayer.
Life coach Katia Beeden is administrator of a website that seeks to
Now, all the people that are on the right with the MAGA hats that are opening this particular, I guess, initiative of bringing the white South Africans into America, do you think maybe they're full of shit if they say that there isn't a racial bias on their end?
The
'Cause
fact
these are
Possibly.
these are real immigrants. Like that's in a lot of tweets, that's what a lot of them were saying. And one thing is, oh, well, what, like here you see women and children where if they were from another country, it would just be nothing but a bunch of middle-aged men. And it's just, when they say that, do they take any time to look into that to verify whether that's actually a trend? Because I don't think it's that hard to find like press coverage of a large amount of refugees getting off the planes that are like disembarking that are Syrian or some other like ethnicity, and you can see a variation in age and gender, but I guess they're just going to make assumptions and act as if their basis assumptions are true.
Help white South Africans take up Trump's offer.
We've been forgotten. It's very hard for us to travel. It's very hard for us to get visas. So to suddenly hear that a country like the United States is offering us refugee status was a really big deal. And I was so excited. I felt so relieved. It just felt like a lifeline.
In February, Trump issued an executive order that called for the US to resettle Afrikaner refugees. It said Afrikaners, who are descendants of mostly Dutch early settlers...
Look, don't you think Trump is diplomatic? See? He's really reaching out to the rest of the world, and he's really making the majority of people throughout the globe really love America now.
He's creating African Americans.
Discrimination.
I don't know. She's using a Mac, so I think she's kind of not that bright.
The assertion that minority white South Africans face discrimination from the black majority has spread in far-right circles for years and been echoed by Trump's white South African-born ally, Elon Musk.
I guess the key issue just to highlight is that none of this is actually true.
Political analyst TK Poe says the refugee scheme has created a false narrative that South Africa is a country going through some civil war.
I'm sorry.
And then second,
what's that?
Elon looked like he was on ketamine in that photo.
Okay.
You can't convince me otherwise. I mean, that's a man who's on the drip.
He's rich, so he can just do any drugs he wants.
He's off the horse.
Yeah, well, the same laws don't apply to him as they do to everyone else.
Well, it's medication, John.
Yeah.
It's for his depression.
Yeah. Nitrous. If you're rich, you can take a bunch of nitrous for depression.
Created a lot of division.
Sometimes I have allergies, so I take a little bit of Fent.
Division.
Violence against white farmers and the law allowing for the
Somebody clip that.
distribution of land are often cited as evidence of anti-white discrimination in South Africa. However, out of 26,000 murders in South Africa last year, just 44 were linked to farming communities, according to police statistics. Crime researchers say the overwhelming majority of murder victims are black. In addition, 3/4 of private land in South Africa...
Fake news. Lies.
That's all lies.
The people that deny this, they clearly do a lot of extensive research to verify it. They don't just... watch news networks where they don't talk about the metrics or the statistics, but then when they come across some kind of press coverage giving the opposing data, where they do at least present numbers, they could be lying, therefore they are.
Expropriation has taken place. South Africa's government has criticised Trump's program, saying that it failed to recognise South Africa's history of colonialism and apartheid. It added that it's ironic that refugee status is being offered to people from the most economically privileged part of South African society. The average white household owns 20 times the wealth of the average black household, according to international academic journal The Review of Political Economy. Official data shows unemployment rates are far higher among black citizens.
As long as it's not here, you can go anywhere you want.
Trump's order also came after he'd suspended all US refugee admissions, citing security and...
What a nice guy.
Thousands of...
Oh, God.
Afghans, Congolese, and others fleeing conflict.
Do you guys know about the history of Argentina?
Not entirely.
Yeah.
I can't say I'm a scholar on history.
Do you know
Definitely not extensively.
The diversity is in, or the, I guess the racial demographics are when it comes to Argentina?
No.
So they're overwhelmingly white. They have, probably out of all the American, or all of the countries in the Americas, they have the, probably the largest white demographic, like when it comes to, like, percentage-wise. And one of the things they did once they got independence is they did engage in this, they called it ethnic cleansing, where one of the things they did is they'd conscript all the ex-slaves and put them in the front lines and use them for meat grinder tactics. And they started, like, the United States was thinking of doing this, where they were going to deport all the ex-slaves to Liberia, but that didn't follow through. But Argentina decided that they're not going to allow any immigrants from Africa or from East Asia into the country, and they're only going to allow immigrants from Asia. They gave people incentives to only have kids with people who are white, And they also, they started shipping out all of the non-white sort of Argentinians, and you look at how they went from having a much more diverse population in terms of like racial demographics, and now they're like overwhelming majority white. So it seems like maybe Trump's trying to emulate their kind of political practice.
Were blocked even after they've been vetted and cleared.
Ooh, so yeah, Ahmed mentioned that, like, at the end of World War II, that was a country that a lot of Nazis fled to, and they gave them asylum. So see, America's not the only country that has a really, really racist history. So does South Africa and Argentina. The whole world's racist.
Yay.
Had a bizarre meltdown over South African asylum seekers.
Yay, global racism.
Deeply and morally wrong-headed and repulsive. These are the descendants of the people who created the most diabolical system of white supremacy in human history.
I mean, pause.
They're not.
To call it evil and diabolical, I think, is a bit of a hyperbole, don't you think?
Hyperbolic, but
it's a little bit of a hyperbole.
Yeah. So what did they say? Because I was reading
evil.
chat.
It was evil and diabolic to allow 59 South African white refugees because they are the descendants of those who put in the apartheid system.
Yeah, that, like I said, that's rhetoric I don't agree with. There's people on the far left that will present that, and that's where I'm going to draw a line in the sand. That is racist.
Directly responsible for it, but it was a system that actually moved black people off of the arable land. So they inherited the land that the black people had to give up. It was called forced removal. It was something called the Bantustan policy, where they.
So that is true. And this is like land appropriation because the majority of South Africa's upper middle class or wealthy, like, sort of population is white. So they do own a very disproportionate amount of land. But this is something you see in all countries when it comes to land acquisition, because it's just the government has to have some authority over land. You can buy out land and there can be legality there. But what's stopping one billionaire from buying out acres and acres and acres and acres of land and having a monopoly? It's going to become feudalistic. So this is just a basic process that every single country and its government has. And they own a very large sum, like a very large landmass, and a lot of it isn't really being used. And this process of trying to requisition the land and to try to distribute it to, I guess, not even just black farmers, but more people that want to, I guess, engage in agriculture overall. Or so they have areas that they can actually use to build homes or more communities. It's kind of something that makes sense logistically. And it's not like these farmers who are having some land seized are not going to still be rich and wealthy landowners that still own a large mass of land afterwards.
Moved black people out of the cities and farmlands into these remote areas with non-arable land. I mean, it was just one of the most worst processes ever. But what has happened in this strange, bizarre world we're living in is that the Afrikaners have become the darling of these right-wing white supremacist movements around the world.
He then made the astonishing claim that this group weren't persecuted because only a few South African farmers were murdered.
Trump amazingly called it a genocide, one of the worst lies.
So Larry the libtard, which I'm guessing seems supposed to be ironic, but says wrong, all land is being used. So you're saying every single acre of land is being utilized. There isn't any land that's fairly vacant. And even if they are using it for certain crops, do they have a surplus? There's also that dynamic. Do they have more land than they actually need?
I've ever heard him say. There's just been a small handful of farmers that have been killed over the past 10 years. No land has actually been expropriated.
Online commentators were in disbelief over the exchange, with this person saying it's only supremacy when it's white people and not supremacy when your country is being invaded via the southern border. And whilst MSNBC was melting down over the new citizens, the South African asylum seekers were enjoying.
So she's chewing on the flag. Yeah.
God. Look at those little copies.
Throw that kid in jail.
It's a commie. That's a commie right there if I've ever seen one.
It's a communist baby.
Damn libtard commie.
But I do think that kind of rhetoric, again, two wrongs don't make a right. You don't fight racism with racism. I don't think this particular child right here in the pink onesie and the yellow onesie, I don't think they had anything to do with apartheid. So I don't think they should be demonized because of it.
It was all their idea.
Quit making excuses.
He was the mastermind.
Waving flags and looking very proud and grateful to be safe from persecution.
Yummy flag.
Welcome. Welcome to the United States of America. A lot of you, I think, are farmers, right? When you have quality seeds, you can put them in foreign soil and they will blossom, they will bloom. And we are excited to welcome you here to our country where we think you will bloom, and we will hopefully allow you to have fulfilling lives for your children, and then we will benefit alongside you.
This commentator
we need more people that have blonde hair and blue eyes like me.
welcomed the new citizen, saying
I need more
refugees from
people that I can relate to. Because I need people to look like me to relate to them.
South Africa. Notice these are actual families. Men,
It's like the
women,
most
children
important
who will
part.
easily assimilate and appreciate the
Yes.
United States. Stark contrast between
What's
the laws
external
of
that
single men
counts,
who are
not
willing
what's
to abuse
internal.
our system. The granting of asylum is just the latest step by the Trump administration to grant these
Yeah,
South
one of those people had a sign that said, "Please stop legalize racism," and I just wonder what they mean by that.
security. Earlier this year, Trump announced he would be cutting funding from South Africa over
Was that in America? I saw that too. Was that in America? If so, then I assume they're talking about people being deported. And even though it's not really legalized racism, it kind of is, because that's the main thing.
Well, it was a bunch of MAGA people holding that sign up.
That's the main thing. They won't say it, but that's really the main thing that's the problem.
Yeah,
They're
if most of
fucking
the
brown.
immigrants were white, I honestly think that the majority of them wouldn't give two fucks.
Yeah,
It's
like
the
if they're
fact
from
that
Europe or
white
something.
English speakers, I think it's
Yeah.
because they don't speak the same language and they're not the same skin color. And I think they're in denial if they say that that isn't a major component. And it's used as a boogeyman for the right because you look at the numbers and it doesn't have that much of an effect on the economy. Even if you want to play the game of, well, they're here illegally. Well, if you care about laws being broken and if you care about things interfering with the economy and taxpayer money, I think there's 1,000,001 other things that are much more detrimental.
Yeah, and
it kind of shows that their priorities don't really correlate with what they claim that they actually care about.
Yeah, and the same people that say that break laws all the fucking time, even if they don't know it.
and rights violations. He said
Maybe
in
we
a
should
Truth
kick
Social
them
post,
out of America when we see them crossing the street illegally or something like that. They're breaking a law.
Sky News Australia, they were very, very pro-Trump during his campaign. So now, I don't know. Are all the other Australian news networks pro-Trump? Because Sky News is one of the few networks besides Fox News that seems to really shill for the same kind of policies.
South Africa is confiscating land.
Somebody
Yeah,
said
and
in the chat.
The
Somebody
way
said
they
in-
do it is
oh,
very obvious too. Sorry, go on.
I was just gonna say some cultures aren't compatible. Is that racist? Some of these
what do you mean,
some of these people have been here for years, so they're part of the culture.
And what do you mean?
They're living
What's
the same culture?
What's the litmus test for whether or not a culture isn't compatible? That's something that is very vague and arbitrary. And I do agree that if you move to another country, you should try to assimilate to some extent. You should try to learn whatever the languages are in that country. I think it might take time. I don't expect them to be absolutely fluent, but I do think that that's definitely something that should be expected. And I do think that they should abide by certain standards in the country where they shouldn't expect separation of church and state. So if they have different religions, well, hey, if Christians aren't allowed to enforce their religion in public schools, then they can enforce their religions in public schools. But this logic of, hey, the culture isn't compatible, well, if they're working, abiding by the law, not engaging in violence, they're not, interfering with anyone else's day-to-day life, then how's it a problem? It's like if they dress differently than you and maybe they eat a different diet, why does that fucking bother you?
Yeah, an influx of immigrants shouldn't be treated like a Borg coming in. It's like it's a bunch of individuals. Some of them you don't know who's going to assimilate perfectly and who isn't.
Well, they're a Borg if they're non-white.
Yeah, if they're
white,
non-white, English speaking, then you gotta treat them like a Borg.
Very badly. It is about.
I just want to say, it's crazy to see immigration and other cultures coming into our country being demonized, because Bryant makes a good point. We've been growing up told that this is a melting pot. I mean, you're not thinking about the days of Ellis Island, where we put a big old statue up that France gave us and said, send us all your poor people so we can exploit their labor and sell them the false dream that we call the American dream. And then, here we are several generations later, and we're trying to make the best of it together, right?
And then it's like they're stating, oh, mass immigration creates neighborhoods where migrants don't need to learn our culture. So it's like, but even if they are living in more, I guess, isolated, segregated pockets where they have their own sort of, I guess maybe it's kind of like the Amish, and you see that all over the world, where you have certain minority groups where human beings kind of fucking suck. So a lot of times you do have that sort of incidental sort of self-segregation, but is a notable amount of crime coming from those communities? So it's like, why do you give a fuck if there's this one, like, I don't know, Turkish, like, sort of town where there's a bunch of, like, Turkish restaurants and stuff, and there's a mosque in one corner and stuff. If all of them go to work and give back to the economy and aren't engaged in any crime, why does it bother you?
Yeah, at that point, we only gain from that.
To so much as mention. A massive human rights violation at a minimum is happening for all to see. The United States won't stand for it. We will act. Also, I will be cutting off all future funding to South Africa until a full investigation of this situation has been completed. But CNN slammed this today.
Of refugee status.
So the thing is, it kind of shows how Trump is just not well read or well informed geopolitics at all, because this was something that a few years ago the media tried to stir up some kind of like big scare, and then the UN investigated it, and it turned out that they weren't it was indiscriminate when it came to like the abduction of farmers and stuff. And that's what they would do. The different criminal groups would go in and capture farmers and then hold them ransom for money, and they were doing it to any farmer regardless of race. And they found that it wasn't direct, like it was an incentive for them financially, not racially. So this isn't something that needs to be, it's already been investigated. And this is clear. It's clear that, hey, Trump's just talking to his buddy Elon Musk and being ear-fed this sort of bullshit. And maybe this is why somebody like him shouldn't be president. Because you shouldn't follow through with policies like this simply based on hearsay from your, like, billionaire buddy who supports something like the Hyperloop.
Well, also, a little bit ago, we were talking about not treating an influx of migrants like a Borg, and our president's treating like a whole population like a Borg.
Off its economic assistance.
Do you think maybe that's why a lot of people voted for him?
Probably, because that's how they think too.
South Africa over this as well. So it's not just not letting black South Africans in.
Well, see, they don't just relate to Trump because he's white. They relate to him more for his, like, his mindset and his personality. So that's proof that they're not completely superficial.
Or other people from other parts of the continent. There's now a cutoff of aid for HIV medication. I think South Africa gets about 17% of their of the money that they use for HIV treatment in South Africa comes from the U.S.
And that, as you know, has happened across the country.
So somebody says over 500 billion per year. What about our debt? We are fucked. Well, you do know that things like illiteracy in America it's estimated that illiteracy costs America trillions of dollars a year. So why don't we focus on that? That's a lot more than 500 billion. What about things like our inflated prison system? And illegal immigrants and legal immigrants are committing less crimes on average than natural-born citizens. So that's a big drain on the taxpayers. So you have things like not paying people a livable wage. That really fucks with the economy, like our inflated housing market. That's another thing that really fucks with the economy. So, like, why are they so hyper-focused on immigration? It's just, even if you're going to argue that it's a problem that needs to be addressed, it should probably be like number 62 on the list of things that, when you just look at the logistics and the data, that should be taken like seriously. So it kind of shows that the only reason why they care so much about it is because they don't really care about benefiting the economy or benefiting the country. They just want to get a bunch of non-white people out of their country.
Continent, that there are kids dying right now across the African continent because they can't get emergency food aid, which costs maybe $70 to save a child's life, because they can't get AIDS medication, which costs 12 cents a day. We can't afford that, but we were willing, America was, to provide a plane to bring 49 Afrikaners, white privileged Afrikaners, to the United States and give them expedited refugee status, when meanwhile there are 12,000 other people who have already been approved and gone through a multi-year screening.
This commentator backed the move to give this group of South Africans asylum, saying they are genuine asylum seekers, despite what the media says.
Hey, America, you saw those South African farmers today that were actually waving the American flags because they were happy to be in the United States? Yeah, those are political asylum seekers. They're not waving another country's flag. Oh, and guess what? You probably won't hear it much about it on the mainstream media because, well, they're white.
Mainstream media is covering this pretty extensively, so it's like, yeah, they probably won't cover this at all.
I won't hear
And
about
whilst
this,
a group
John.
of refugees were welcomed into America with open arms, their own leader, South African President Isreal-Hamas, maintains they do not fit the description of asylum seekers, and that Trump has the story
Well,
of
he's
what's
probably lying.
going on in South Africa all wrong.
Let's just assume that.
I'm concerned because those people...
Oh, who's that right there in the middle?
Is that
Paul Kagame?
Oh.
You don't remember? Yeah, in Rwanda, he's a big military strategist against the Congo.
being enticed to go to the United States do not fit the definition of a refugee. A refugee is someone who has to leave their country out of fear of political persecution, religious persecution, or economic persecution. And
that's what the United States says they're undergoing in South Africa. That's why they've opened the door for them.
The thing is, if they're going to claim that, hey, the government in South Africa needs to be investigated, they're going after the white South Africans. Look at the wealth distribution in South Africa. And look at how much wealth their white population has that makes up less than 10% of the country compared to the other racial demographics. They make up the majority of aristocrats. And if the government has like the control, like when it comes to authority, being able to go in and being able to arrest these particular aristocrats, entrepreneurs, being able to seize their assets, freeze their bank accounts, are they doing shit like that? Because they have control of the military forces. If the government wanted to do that, they could. So if the government, if they're going to claim the government's just corrupt and is persecuting the white South Africans, I don't know, it doesn't really seem like they're really doing much about like the uber wealthy in South Africa that is predominantly white.
Yes, and they don't fit that bill. They don't fit that description. And I had a conversation with President Trump on the phone, and he said, what's happening down there? And I said, President, what you've been told by those people who are opposed to transformation back home in South Africa is not true. And I added to him, I said, we were well taught by Nelson Mandela and other iconic leaders like Oliver Tambo on how to...
You know what? I do think it's a conspiracy because we all know that Nelson Mandela really died in prison. That this is some kind of like conspiracy where it's an actor that they're showing. It was released from prison and became the first president of South Africa. Yeah. The Mandela effect. Completely legit, just like the earth being flat.
continue to build a united nation out of the diverse groupings.
Berenstein Bears, not Berenstain.
We're the only country on the continent where the colonizers.
This is definitely the
came to
Berenstain
stay,
universe,
and we have never driven them out of our country. So they are staying, and they're making great progress. It's a fringe grouping that does not have a lot of support, that is anti-transformation and anti-change, that would actually prefer to see South Africa going back to apartheid type of policies. And I said to him, I would never do that. I learned at the feet of Nelson Mandela, and we intend to proceed with the implementation of our constitutional architecture.
I don't know. Nelson Mandela spent some time in prison, so he had a criminal record. So why is it okay for him to have a criminal record, and he was their president, but then people make a big deal about Trump having a criminal record? I mean, he tried to take over the government. He tried to dismantle the government, Nelson Mandela.
Damn.
Yeah. Why is it okay for him to do it, but not Trump?
Goddamn liberal media.
Watch how these deputies with the Sacramento Sheriff's Department escorts an elderly lady out of the building. One of the deputies just literally shoves her, leaving her lying on the ground, apparently injured.
They don't just brutalize black people. Even though cops are very racist, they at times decide to brutalize old white people.
Surely the other deputies there took quick action, rendered medical treatment to the elderly lady, and then arrested their colleague for assault.
Yeah. Toss her out like the garbage she is.
What's the problem here? They threw her out of jail. Did you know that Isn't that where she wants to go?
If you're married to a cop, you're more likely to be a victim of spousal abuse than if you're married to somebody of any other occupation.
Yeah, we've been over this. Probably because you got to be a real cunt to marry a cop, John, right?
Right. Exactly.
Well, it's a hard job, so
you're
you
more
can
likely to
justify
deserve
violence. But if somebody resists arrest because, I don't know, they flare their arms a little bit when the cop's trying to handcuff them, well, hey, that's a very serious crime. But cops beating the shit out of their spouses and children, that doesn't matter, even though statistically they're more likely to engage in that crime than a person of any other occupation. But they put their lives on the line, even though crossing guards are more likely to die than police officers.
And battery. Do you think that happened?
Should become
of course not.
Police
In fact, not even
guys.
close.
Like all four of us, we could just do that, you know? What it would take, like a week of school or something? Like, I'm cool.
It is true, Bill Hicks. We should take a moment to thank Dirt Cobain for being here tonight.
Yes, everybody.
Thank you. You're
Round
welcome.
of applause.
I'm glad I could be here. Thank you.
Everybody
really,
pop
I do
the
it for you guys.
champagne.
I do it for you guys. You know, what can I say?
Amazing.
I'm a man of the people.
Back on topic.
So selfless. You can hear her making noise.
This footage just came out.
Yeah, who cares? She's.
Do you think those cops are sadists?
So this apparently happened
young
back on
RJ
October.
coming through with $1.25. Thank you, young RJ. Cheers. He says cheers.
Shad needs the money.
24 at a jail in Sacramento County, California. Multiple deputies were in the process of signing out a woman for release from custody. That process included the woman having to sign a document and answering 3 questions.
You know what's really interesting about this?
She was arrested. So that shows that, you know what, she's a menace to society. She's a criminal. So who are you going to believe? The person who's spending some time contained in jail? Or the man in blue, one of the heroes of society? Because authority figures and government officials lying and being corrupt.
We all know
thing.
only the finest people become police officers in America.
Yeah, like humanity, our population is in short supply of terrible, evil human beings, and clearly there just isn't enough of a population of assholes to fulfill the role of dirty, crooked cops to make it so there's a large amount of dirty, crooked cops. Because if you live in pampered suburbanite land, you can just tell yourself that, hey, it's more ideal if most cops are altruistic saints that become cops because they just have a heart of gold and they want to help people. So that one, because I want that to be true, therefore it is.
I will say this. You know, cops love to catch you in some shit, pull you over and, you know, do their thing. They're always on that. On a dime, they'll pull you over for the slightest thing if, you know, you're a long-haired hippie like me and they think you might smell like pot. Anyways,
look at you and your victim complex.
I know, right? It's terrible. God damn it. You made me lose track, John. You made me lose train of thought.
And officers. No. We're honorable citizens, my husband and I.
Let's focus on this.
For this.
What I find interesting and also like and wonder about is like, why was there like 10 police officers to escort an old lady out?
Hey, watch this! I'm gonna throw this bitch out on her ass. That's
yeah,
why.
it kind of seems like that.
Well, he's trying to give his coworkers a show,
and then
trying to provide some after-work entertainment.
Another interesting thing about this is, you know, like when it comes to how much corruption exists within a police station and everything, you may think, oh, maybe there's just a couple cops that are real corrupt in there, and the rest are just doing their job or whatnot. But we watched this, like, all 10 of those police officers, there's no way that they didn't know at all what just happened. There's no way in their brain they heard the old lady, it just goes to show how corrupt the whole thing is there.
If they weren't rotten to the core, and if you're going to make the argument that it's just a few bad apples, then the one cop that did that, all the other police that saw it should have been like, whoa, what the fuck, man? And they should have arrested him right away. And then they should have immediately gone to the woman's aid. Like, are you okay?
Yeah, it's very telling.
I need to call an ambulance. But instead, they're all like laughing and heckling. They love it.
Yeah, it's very telling just how corrupt our police system really is.
But it's a hard job, so it's okay.
Really? So, like, listen to me. So, like, I need you to listen.
Okay, please don't touch me.
I need you to listen.
Please watch your contact, okay? Please stand back. You will need me to sign.
You need to stop talking and just listen to us.
What did you say? Look how they make the officers talk.
Sign the form.
Okay,
if you want
you
to
better
leave,
be
sign
more
the form.
polite. Try to be civilized,
I've been
right?
extremely polite with you.
No, you want to hear what I'm saying?
She's being rude to the cops, and when any dumb fuck can run obstacle course and become a cop, you got to kiss their feet. So it's okay to treat people like shit who work in customer service. They're not allowed to tase you and beat the shit out of you. But if you're rude to cops, then they're the Uber citizens. So then it's like the worst felony of them all.
I don't really.
She was about to sign the form, and then this deputy lost his temper, and he yanked the pen thing away from her. Then, like a pack of hyenas, the deputies sort of surround this woman.
Okay.
Start walking this way.
Don't push me.
Shut the up.
What?
Just start walking this
What are
way.
you doing?
Shut the fuck up.
Blue in the chat says, I have the hiccups, guys. What do I do?
Hiccups don't exist. Look, you need to realize that
you
hiccups
take-
are a vestigial action that exists from a time that we as an organism, before we evolved out of gills. So you have to realize that there's no such thing as hiccups. The second you can convince yourself and realize that hiccups don't exist, it'll go away.
Hiccups are a
you just
social
got to take
construct.
a much larger container of carbonated fluid, and you just got to chug it down, and that will get rid of the hiccups.
Out of the building by multiple deputies. As they get towards the doors of the building, one of the deputies can be heard on camera saying, "Have a good night," and then she is brutally shoved out the door.
Have a good night. You'll be okay.
Yeah, both hands. When you saw it on the video from up high, it kind of looked like, I don't know. What I got from it was just like one-handed, but he literally was like I said, boom.
Like I said, only the
hands.
finest of people.
Yeah, what a piece of shit. That was so fucking purposefully done.
He was probably just having a bad day. Do you know what cops have to deal with?
Yeah, she
She
backtalked
called for
him. For God's sakes, he's a cop.
Did you know
And even
the
really-
cops are-
If
Did you
there
know
was
the
any
majority of
back talk,
cops?
it was barely audible too.
Yeah. Did you know that the majority of cops are conservative?
No.
And they're also more likely to beat their wives and kids than any other occupation. Yeah.
Also more likely to be scumbags in most ways possible.
Well, therefore, they're more likely to have scumbag kids who need to get, smacked around a little bit when they misbehave, right,
Well,
John?
Yeah,
Online
bitch
crash.
wives.
It's genetics.
Charged by our society.
We're all familiar with
protecting
the
that
term
woman.
bitch wife, right? Where it's like both words are put together. It's important to know the difference.
Elderly woman, they violated that trust. Then they
Gene
smirk
just
at it,
goes
and
on.
they laugh about it.
Beechwood. A man is accused of checking out books from the library on Jewish, Black, and LGBTQ history and burning them, posting the video.
Tonight, his actions are being publicly condemned by an interfaith group, and our Kite is live from the library in Beechwood.
Sorry, it's not
It
funny.
seems
but
like the
it
guy
is.
that spent his time doing this, he really has things figured out.
Yeah,
Priorities
it's like,
are straight.
There is this investigation
Yeah, it's
reporting
like
intelligence.
burning these random books are not gonna get rid of all that information and everything. It still exists on the internet. Probably every single book he burned is on the internet.
Shut up,
There's plenty
Shabisky.
of
You don't
copies.
get it.
Who
It's
reads
like,
physical copies anymore?
you can never fully get rid of it. Can't get rid of it.
Yeah, that's the real problem. Buy a fucking Kindle, Jesus.
Oh, you beat me to it. I was gonna say, let's
something.
gather up 500 Kindles and burn them. So that that's more symbolic than anything, right? We're gonna burn all the books.
Well, he might be onto something because illiteracy rates are on the rise, and like fifth of Americans are functionally illiterate, and you look at the metrics, and it's in conservative areas where, hey, illiteracy is much higher. So the people that are more likely to be literate and read are people that are more on the left. So
Books is for
maybe he's onto
libtards,
something.
Gene.
Yeah, people who read books, they just believe whatever professionals who wrote those books tell them.
Fucking book reader.
Yeah. If you don't like a source, just say that it could be wrong, therefore it is wrong.
Trump will get rid of the Constitution and make America great again. That's crazy.
Fuck right.
They're collecting and
Yeah,
Those
let's
are
see what
for
happens in
dumbasses.
5 years, and let's see if you're still going to be defending the dude.
donating 1,000 books. That's 10 books donated for every one book that was allegedly burned. Now, according to Beechwood Police,
Never underestimate the stupidity of American conservatives.
allegedly checked out 100 books on Jewish and Black history and LGBTQ
How about instead
education.
of us worrying
The
about
library-
getting rid of the Constitution, let's just try to fix the economy where I can pay like $1 for a cheeseburger again instead of fucking paying out the ass for even the most garbage food.
Dude,
But there's
isn't it
books
crazy?
that like are pro LGBT, so that's definitely a much greater priority.
Yeah, that
than
really
limiting
real
matters.
problem.
propaganda, as opposed to people having like access to affordable food.
Yeah. Oh no!
And necessary groceries.
A guy put on a dress. Oh no! I better stop this.
Yeah, that's real scary and all, but you motherfuckers even remember the dollar menu, dude? Now it's a value menu. How about that? You can't
Ain't
get a
much
dollar
fucking value
cheeseburger.
on it, I'll tell you that much.
Dude, wrong. Okay, that's
Where are you getting
that's-
dollar cheeseburger, beef burger
You
from,
could
dude?
you could get a double cheeseburger, 4 nuggets, and a drink and fries for only $5. Not a sponsor,
That's-
tubes.
No, that's still not a dollar
That's a
menu.
deal now.
Okay, let's continue.
Notified by the political violence tracking group Princeton
Think of what
University
they took
Bridging
from me.
Divides Initiative that the man posted a photo of a car trunk full of books on a website widely used by white nationalists. The caption referenced, quote unquote, cleansing the libraries. The researchers also said the man posted a video they believe depicted him burning all 100 books.
He's addressing all. They really like cleansing, like ethnic cleansing, and I don't know, literary cleansing, I guess.
So today, the Interfaith Group's initiative announcement, the rabbi told us that he would tell this man that his ideas have been reviled throughout history.
That what he's doing is only acting like the perpetrators of hatred, like the Nazis, the people who wanted to destroy my grandmother, who was a Holocaust survivor and who lost all of her family members except for one in the Holocaust in Poland. The vision of burning our books, my goodness, what a pathetic and sad way to respond to the diverse range of cultures there are in America.
Well, we all know it's conspiracy, just like everything
That
else.
guy sounds like a libtard to me.
Meantime, Beechwood Police
In
tells us their
Minecraft.
investigation is ongoing, and once complete, the city prosecutor will review it to determine whether a crime was committed. And the Cuyahoga County Public Library System says that the man is no longer allowed on any of their properties, and his borrowing privileges have been revoked as well. Christy.
Dude, look at this.
They
don't
took his
support freedom of
library card.
speech. Oh my god.
Do you
See,
believe that? They took his library card. Ah, shit.
they're segregating
That was
this book burner from the libraries.
All right, Kaito, we appreciate it so much. Thank you.
A victory parade and triumphal chants. Here, there's no doubt, it's Pakistan who's defeated India in this latest conflict.
So here, both sides are claiming that they demolished the other in the recent, skirmishes.
The guest of honor, the commander of a local military base in this remote part of Pakistani-administered...
Both asking each other how their assholes feel.
No, bad.
फौज पाकिस्तान को मुबारकबाद पेश करते हैं
Gene
उन्होंने
doesn't
मुंह तोड़
like
जवाब
dirty
करके इंडिया का मुंह बंद कर दिया
It's too dirty.
Well, when we're doing commentary on other cultures or people
James,
from
stay on
completely
topic.
different parts of the globe, maybe we should make comments like that.
Yeah, this is rough. I want to go back to our softball American issues.
To clarify, I was not doing like a drunken crow style joke. Hey, I was,
Yes.
It was more a Zidane style.
it was more like Xbox Live trash talk.
Oh, he's mad.
The dispute over Kashmir dates back to Pakistan and India's independence. Both countries now control parts of the territory, but claim it entirely.
More news from Kashmir.
In 1947, the region's colonial-era Hindu ruler chose to...
If you go up to Google Maps in, like, India, it will show that Kashmir is part of India. But if you go to Google Maps in Pakistan, it will say it's part of Pakistan. But India does pretty much control the territory.
India, not Pakistan, despite its Muslim-majority population. A suggested referendum on Kashmir's future was never held. Instead, these lush green hills have been at the heart of multiple wars and a conflict that's now between two nuclear-armed neighbours. We're driving right now right along the line of control, the de facto border that divides Kashmir. The homes, the hills that you can see just the other side of that valley, that's the Indian-administered side. A period of relative peace in recent years saw domestic tourism boom across Kashmir, despite army positions.
I know. So there's this one, they had the Indus Valley Treaty. And there's this, I forget the name of the dam, that's controlled by India. And the water that flows through the dam comprises of 80% of the water that's used for Pakistan's agriculture. So if a war ever breaks out, India could... I guess obstruct all the water from flowing into Pakistan, and then fuck with their, food input and starve them out. So, see, they don't need to use nukes. They can do that. But maybe Pakistan could just nuke the dam, and then, there you go. They don't have to deal with it. But they only have to use, I guess they don't need to use a nuke. They can just use some C4 to get rid of the dam. Which, in all honesty... they should try not to murder anybody. But if a war did break out and India tried to do that, I definitely wouldn't blame them if they destroyed the dam. I actually think that would make sense if they did that.
So deep in the hills. That peace was shattered as an old conflict was infused with fresh...
But to give India credit, India has abided by the Indus Valley Treaty in every single military conflict they've had since they were both given sovereignty, and they've had quite a few military confrontations, so they haven't violated that particular agreement yet.
Blood. This bazaar in the Neelam Valley amongst the sites struck by Indian shelling. With a ceasefire in place, residents are beginning to repair the damage. Mohammed Nazir struggled for years to open a small shoe shop. Now it's been destroyed. The villagers take us to see the crater left by a large blast. This round of fighting may have ended, but it's revived old anger. On this side of Kashmir, the vast majority are supportive of the Pakistani state, especially in the face of Indian attacks.
So, I know exactly how it works in India with their different states and the kind of sovereignty or the kind of autonomy they give to the different regions in terms of the kind of laws that they can pass locally. But, and maybe certain states have more, I guess, self-control over their own local policies compared to others. I don't know how much, I guess, self-regulation Kashmir has. But I will say that India definitely isn't very, or Prime Minister Modi isn't very nice to the Islamic communities that live there. Because he has engaged in bulldozer justice, and he does like to go into those communities and use excavators and a lot of heavy machinery to tear down their homes and to displace the occupants there. Tear down their mosque, build a Hindu temple over it. So it seems like they don't really respect the population there. So maybe they could have, I don't know, some kind of maybe like Hong Kong, where it's a semi-autonomous region, and maybe they can kind of have a gradual partition to make them their own sovereign state in the span of a few generations. Maybe they should do that. So somebody in the chat says, so what? are they talking to somebody else, or are they saying so what that India's or that Prime Minister Modi has gone through and ordered some bulldozer justice and torn down people's homes? Because I think that is pretty fucked up.
So yeah, living here and just what that entails, just having all this fighting around you and then having your livelihood destroyed like that dude's shoe store. Just to think about how stressful that is, having to live through all that.
Yeah, and if you think that it's hard times in America, people being overworked, people having to work overtime just to get by, most of the world, it's something like 80% of the world's population lives on less than $10 a day. So they have it even harder than Americans do when it comes to just kind of living on the penny. So imagine like they have a home and how much they have to work in order to actually I guess maintain their property and so forth, and also feed their families, and then they just bulldoze their homes down.
Brutal attack on tourists in Indian-administered Kashmir. India blamed Pakistan, which has long supported a violent insurgency here. But Pakistan insists it wasn't responsible. The two neighbours ended up launching powerful missiles at each other's military bases. The worst clashes in more than 2 years.
Oh, so India's big thing when it comes to their military. So they're like ranked number 5 when it comes to their military strength. And like the United States, our big thing is our Air Force. China's kind of known for their Navy. The thing that India kind of excels at compared to other militaries is their artillery. And they have this, the United States has like the Javelin, which is this, it's either the Stinger or the Javelin, but they have this, it's like the launch and abort sort of technology where you fire it automatically and then it allows you to leave before they're able to reveal your position. And the only other country that has some kind of weapon like that is India. And it's some kind of like artillery vehicle. So that's the kind of technology that's developed and manufactured by India that's like unique to them. So plus they have nukes. So they are a notable military force.
Decades. Kashmiris divided by a line on a map most don't want or recognize, and the first to suffer whenever violence erupts.
Oh, Bill Hicks says, okay, Gene. Bill Hicks, you've been quite the curmudgeon lately. People have...
Bill Hicks is the greatest, okay, Gene? Leave him alone.
Bill Hicks hasn't been very friendly, so, do you not like what I had to say there?
Do you not agree with Gene, Bill Hicks?
To offer condolences to
Why are you bringing up old shit, John? Bill's been pleasant.
Killed in his home.
Yeah, he's a cutie pie.
Osama died just...
I think we all need to get into a group and make out.
तो अफसोस ये भी है कि चलो ये बात तो नहीं है, हम शहीद तो 10 शहीद और भी हो सकते हैं, लेकिन बेटे जो माँ बाप से जुदा होते हैं तो दुख तो होता ही है ना, कि नहीं होता.
Across the line of control lies the city of Poonch in Indian-administered Kashmir. Shelling by the Pakistani army has been just as deadly. Here, the local Sikh community is grieving for a retired Indian army soldier, Amajit Singh, killed in his home.
बाहर बिल्कुल वही हो गया था, पता नहीं चल रहा था कि अचानक से क्या हो गया है, और हॉस्पिटल के अंदर ये तो थे और भी बहुत सारे वहाँ पे थे, और जिनको स्ट्रेचर में ले जाया जा रहा था वो वापस जिंदा बागी आए वो भी उससे.
Amongst the Muslim majority population here, there's always been sizable support for independence from India. But after years of bloody insurgency and a brutal military crackdown, many just want to live their lives. Local Kashmiri Muslims turned out in large numbers to condemn.
Do you think they're being honest when they're preaching nonviolence? What do you think?
They're lying. They want violence. It's just like they're lying.
Yeah, because they are part of the collective, the Borg.
Then the attack in Pahalgam, but hundreds have been targeted in a huge wave of arrests. Bullets and bombs care little for creed or political view. Amongst the victims of Pakistani shelling, the head of...
So our buddy the Hawk in the chat says, I'm not taking sides, but what I am saying is it happens both ways, and that's unfortunate, but not a hill I'm willing to die on. In a perfect world, they don't treat each other so horribly. Yeah, so there's definitely hostility on both sides. And when this conflict kind of escalated like a few weeks ago, when I looked into it, you saw a lot of threads, a lot of forums and stuff, a lot of chats where a lot of Indians and Pakistanis were saying very mean things to one another. And lots of racism on both sides, or xenophobia, lots of, I guess, Hindu phobia, Islamophobia, and so forth. So
there's a lot of history of that.
See?
Even not in wartime, there's a lot of history of that between those two countries.
I was talking about the ethnic cleansing, or the sort of white purity in Argentina and the apartheid in South Africa, and how America isn't the only predominantly white racist country. And see, this is also demonstrates that humans suck, and humans like to be bigoted towards people of other groups. So it's not just white people that do it. Human beings are terrible. I just hate people in general. Fuck humanity.
Of a Muslim madrasa.
फर्स्ट टाइम सिटी को टारगेट किया, और जिसका हमें अंदाजा नहीं था कि सिटी में भी ऐसा हो सकता है। आज तक हम यहाँ सिटी में अपने आप को खुद को सेफ फील कर रहे थे, लेकिन अचानक हम ऐसा हुआ कि सिटी को टारगेट किया उन्होंने, जिसकी वजह से ये ट्राई हुई।
Rivers flow across the line of control, and bonds between Kashmiri families don't stop at the de facto border. Back in Pakistani-administered Kashmir, for some, the war leaves little to celebrate. Faisal Kashmiri is a local civil rights activist.
After this conflict, I think this is the opportunity for the world community and the people of Jammu and Kashmir, that world community should come forward and give us a very good solution of this, and give us peace here in this region, because we have relatives there as well.
What do you think the solution here could be then?
Ahmed in the chat says, that's why I said we need aliens, a common enemy. Yeah.
Yeah, a common enemy.
Yeah, we'll all just team up and forget about racism. We'll be like, fuck those green ones. We're gonna get them. We hate green fucks. We'll just be racist against green people now.
Somebody clip that and save it for when we actually have green aliens around. Some kind of green alien race, and then you can use that against Shab whenever you want.
What's the animated YouTube series How It Should Have Ended? And I think District 9, they did one on that, and it shows the aliens come back, and the main character at the end of District 9, in the animated clip, he's fully transformed into one of the aliens, and he's like, "Hey, you came back! Are you gonna did you talk to the people? Or are you gonna turn me back to a human?" And he's like, "Oh, I forgot about you. Nah, I came back to declare war against you racist humans."
What they want. This is the main thing. India and Pakistan should ask the people of Jammu and Kashmir, and the world community should play their role.
In parts of the Neelam Valley, the river is so narrow, Kashmiri families shout across to each other, as do tourists from Pakistan and India. A reminder of how Kashmir could help unite these two countries, rather than divide them.
Tonight on Gravitas, we bring you undeniable proof of India's crushing victory.
Okay, so they're going to prove that they won.
Pakistan.
Because that's very important. Who won the Bingity Bing Boom Boom conflict, and which side gets to brag about it?
At the end of the day, that is all that matters, is the size of your dick.
Exactly.
Who beat who in a violent confrontation. That's how you measure your worth.
The proof comes from satellites. The world's eyes in the sky, satellites that belong to many countries, satellites that monitor what is happening in any part of
The
the world.
Hawk believes that Mothra will save us all, apparently.
And
likely,
to be fair, I will say that out of the two sides, I do think India probably did better when it came to, I guess, their military performance, because you look at their military strength versus Pakistan and their amount of military spending. So I definitely think maybe they performed better. So, but it's not necessarily something that should be viewed as a bragging right.
India obliterated Pakistan's aerial backbone. This is not speculation. This is not conjecture. This is satellite-confirmed reality.
Okay, no. When we had our argument with Blackish Cracker last stream, they told us that if there is coverage of a war, then it takes 6 months for it to actually make its way to the media.
6 months exactly.
they have to be lying. This can't be footage from like the last few days, the last week. This has to be like just completely fabricated. These are AI generated images.
But John, can we pay for expedited shipping on this war footage?
I don't know. Snail mail is the only option. They have to travel on horseback to be part of the.
Yes, to deliver the war video.
Delhi already knew, and what Islamabad desperately tried to hide. The New York Times, the Washington Post, several other global outlets have independently analyzed satellite images. What's their conclusion? India inflicted devastating damage.
So on 1.5 speed, Brian, not 2 speed, because Shab and Dirt always bitch if I put it on 2 times speed.
Installations deep
That's
inside
too
enemy territory. Let's start off with the Washington Post's detailed analysis. According to its report, Indian strikes on Pakistan damaged runways and structures across at least 6 major airfields. Directly quoting the report here, these strikes heavily damaged 3 hangars, 2 runways, and a pair of mobile buildings used by the Air Force, quote unquote. Adding that India managed to strike as deep as 160 kilometers inside Pakistani territory, including the Noor Khan Air Base in Rawalpindi, Pakistani Air Forces Bhular and Shehbaz Air Bases, Musharraf Air Base, and the Rahim Yar Khan Air Base. The New York Times also released its own satellite-based assessment. It showed clear evidence of a massive crater.
So, I don't know. Every time there's a battle between India and Pakistan, it seems like it only lasts at most a few weeks. And usually, I think the most significant one was in the 70s. And there was like around 1,000 deaths, which that's still really not good that 1,000-something people died. But you compare it to most wars, and it's just what's going on with like Israel and Gaza and Ukraine. They've already like the lower sort of estimates are in the tens of thousands or the hundreds of thousands. So I guess good job India and Pakistan. At least when you guys fight each other, you don't create a large kill count and you don't engage in confrontations that last forever.
At the Rahim Yar Khan Base.
What disclaimer are you
All the
referring
neighboring
to,
countries
Hawk?
that hate each other and constantly go to war with each other, they seem to be able to get it done quickly with as little carnage and collateral as possible.
Base where Pakistan's high-value F-16 and G-17 fighter aircraft are stationed saw significant damage to its hangars. And at the Sargodha Air Base, 2 separate sections of the runway were hit, rendering it unusable. According to Indian military sources, around 20% of Pakistan's Air Force...
But here's the thing. They're calling this like a 6-day war. If you claim that this confrontation started, like whichever day, like a few weeks ago, no. They had other wars before. So this particular conflict started during the first conflict that happened.
Right,
Because that's how people typically catalog and document, wars and their particular time frames and all the timestamps.
Infrastructure now lies crippled. This is not a claim, it's visual truth. The Indian Army has released satellite images showing at least 8 Pakistan air bases being heavily damaged, with radar stations and air defense systems also devastated in these calculated strikes. Pakistan has been trying to downplay the damage. It claims that its air defense intercepted most of the strikes, but satellite images expose these lies. The numbers that it has released, at least 13 military personnel killed. The numbers it has not shared the full extent of its destroyed infrastructure. The satellite images
Where did
shared by the
Chad
Indian
go?
Army combined with global analysis.
I don't know.
I think in those trees in the background.
Former Pentagon official
Took
Michael
off.
Rubin said India not only neutralized Pakistan's strike potential but also forced Islamabad into panic mode. In his own words, I'm quoting here, Pakistan went running to try to achieve a ceasefire like a scared dog.
Okay, she's not being very bipartisan here. Seemed a bit informal.
With its tail between its legs, quote unquote.
This is Sky News still, right?
In his words, he emphasized that Pakistan's military lost very, very badly, and highlighted that the attention has now shifted to Pakistan's terrorist sponsorship. He called India the clear winner, not just militarily, but diplomatically as well. So Operation Sindoor was not just a military operation, it was a message to those...
So do you think Modi's a cool dude? Who's worse, Modi or Trump?
Yeah.
He got along with J.D. Vance.
More
J.D.
like
Vance,
which one's
went over
more
and-
based?
I don't know.
Yeah, which one is more based, John? I like that question better.
Well,
Young
he has...
RJ coming through with I can't see what it says. They tipped $1.69 and said something, Gene. Look on Streamlabs. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, talk to the chat.
Hi, chat. Hi.
Class Act 93 says the Indian government has paid me to tell you how bigly they won. Well, go ahead. Tell
Right,
us.
it's like that Avatar lady.
Well, we're not even denying that they outperformed Pakistan when it came to the military confrontation. We're just trying to argue that, well, we're glad that it happened very quickly, or it got done very quickly, and not that many people died. And we're also arguing that we think it's childish, the fact that they think it's really important to establish who won, because no one really wins in war. War's bad. Do we all agree with that? People need to stop killing each
It's
other.
a controversial statement, John.
Yeah.
You got to watch where you say
I'm
that.
just virtue signaling.
Starting to sound like a fucking hippie.
Fucking commie, bitch.
Gonna write a country song about beating up John Morgan.
Yeah, that guy's a dork, I hear.
It just said Shabisky Army.
Oh. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That was definitely worth it.
Hell yeah. Shabisky Army, rise up.
Now,
dude.
real quick, Bill Hicks
$1.69.
asks if you're wearing a wig, Gene, but like I think that this is a perfect time to point out that shit is natural.
It's called a weave.
That's natural, ladies.
He has a
It's
natural wig.
We're gonna have a sit-down talk with Bill Hicks. If there's one thing that isn't allowed in the chat, is insulting my hair. That's the one thing where we're gonna have to put down the ban hammer over. Most egregious thing to say, like, out of anything.
Impressive.
I don't know. Why do you think these birds are in a rush to get out of there?
Because their spy cameras being recalled back to their launch bay.
See, I think these are the real victims. They're all fleeing en masse.
मुझे नहीं लगता कि
What about the birds, dude?
अभी 2 या 3
Dude, I always wonder, so in military engagements, when you see like dogs and other animals and there's constant explosions going off, and it's such like an unnatural sort of phenomenon, like what do you think's going on in their heads?
Dude, fucking Armageddon, what do you mean? It's the end of the world. What else can they think?
में सब कुछ नॉर्मल हो जाएगा क्योंकि अभी हमने देखा नहीं है विजुअल्स इतने मैं लेकिन अगर सच्ची बात बताऊं मैं देखूंगी तो शायद मैं नहीं बर्दाश्त कर पाऊंगी कि जो शमशान बना के रख दिया इन्होंने हमारे पुंछ को
Gene kind of looks like a pirate today.
Yarr.
How do I look like a pirate?
Captain Morgan, dude.
He has it. I think it's because it kind of looks like he has like a bandana on his head. It's hanging off the side, like. Gene. Wears his hair like a bandana.
See, this is why I wear the hat, because I don't like how people just don't shut up about my hair.
बंद हो गए थे हमारे घर के पास भी बहुत सारे गोलाबारी शुरू लगी और हमारे घर के ऊपर शेल भी आ
गए थे pirate hat.
जब स्कूल ओपन हो गए तो मैंने बोला मैं स्कूल जाऊंगी मैं गोलाबारी से नहीं डरती
Somebody said fast Indian talk, not as hot. I don't know, I kind of like how they talk fast. So many people talk slow, so I like it when I talk to Indians, they can, like, I like watching videos at 2 times speed, and I like how, since they talk at 2 times speed already, I get to watch it at 4 times speed. Yay, fireworks. Okay. Oh, I guess they're gonna go into their...
How did Pakistan fail so miserably when it tried to attack India? This question must have crossed your mind.
See, they're not being very bipartisan with their commentary. It's one thing to discuss the actual data on who shot down more like military targets, but it's like, how did they lose so terribly or fail so terribly? I think they're kind of like throwing too much shade towards the other party.
On the intervening night of 9th and 10th May, when Pakistan unleashed its deadliest attack against Indian military and civilian areas with missiles and drones,
they were challenged by the impenetrable, the Indian wall of self-defense, Akash Tir. You can also call it India's Iron Dome. So here's all you need to know about the Akash Tir system. Akash Tir is an indigenous artificial intelligence-powered air defense system which is designed and manufactured jointly by the Defense Research and Development Organization, in short DRDO, and ISRO and BEL, Bharat Electronics Limited. It was Akash Tir which stopped all Pakistani inbound airborne drones, missiles, other micro-unmanned aerial vehicles, and other...
So this is kind of like the Iron Dome. But I don't know, they're kind of behind because Israel's working on the Iron Beam. So they should probably try to beat Israel to the Iron Beam. But here, discuss this enough.
Britain is planning one of the strictest anti-smoking laws in the world.
In a generation's time, you could see that tobacco becomes a footnote in history.
It wants to phase out the sale of tobacco products.
They're trying to like create some kind of smoking prohibition.
Creating the first ever...
Okay, 2 of the people aren't here on stream, and then Shab's oh, Dirt left up. Oh, never mind.
What did
you
I
swapped
do?
the
Shab,
cameras around.
you phased
for smoke-free.
You phased out of existence for a mere 20 seconds.
Yeah, for just a moment, Gene didn't see me, and he starts freaking out.
They're gone. They're gone. To be fair, when I sat back down with my
abandonment.
Yeah, and when I sat back down with my drink, you had just phased out into the background. I was gone, and Zidane was gone when I got back too. I don't know if Zidane was here when I left. I had to, Bill Hicks compelled me to drink.
Somebody says childish and pedantic. This channel insists upon itself.
Then why do you
shallow and pedantic?
How does it insist upon itself?
Legal.
Nice.
You're here for, dude, he's cool.
He started smoking in his early teens.
They're triggering me.
Bandito
is just 40. He's facing heart bypass surgery after suffering a heart attack, believed to be linked to his decades-long habit.
I thought I was invincible. But no.
So it seems like Britain is trying to follow through, or their government, with some tobacco prohibition.
He's also lost some of his sight in both eyes. Smoking, he says, has dramatically changed his life.
I believe I've spent a lot of my life thinking it wouldn't happen to me. I'll be all right. I'm still a smoker. Sort of laugh at the people that think it's bad, but it has taken until this moment in time to realise the hardship of it. It's scary. It really is.
Now, here's the thing. When it comes to drugs, I think as long as people know what's in the products, and as long as people are aware of the risks, and they put the proper like warning labels and so forth on their products, I think people are deciding they're taking on their own volition to consume these products. So it sucks. I definitely would prefer that, you know what, like if anybody chooses to smoke, if I could push a magic button so they would be able to, you know, there's plenty of people that live into their 90s and they smoke several packs a day. So I definitely don't wish like this to happen to people, but what's gonna like come to the, or what will result in a more negative outcome? Banning tobacco, where people start doing it illegally, being locked up in prison. I mean, it definitely will benefit the economy more if you just allow it to be legal and allow people to do it if they want to. So prohibition doesn't really seem to work out that well. And the thing is, whenever you consume any product, you should do your homework and look into the product to see what the risks are. So this is sort of like, you know what, you can't really blame McDonald's for making people fat. You can't really blame tobacco or cigarettes for, I guess, getting people addicted and for causing cancer, because people are well aware that that's sort of the consequences of consuming said products.
It's stories like Gary's which the government in London wants to prevent. It's planning new laws to phase out the sale of tobacco products and create Britain's first smoke-free generation. So how will it work? It would become an offense to sell tobacco.
Not only is it not going to help, it's going to do the opposite. It's just going to support a bunch of criminals. Just going to be criminals selling tobacco now.
The tobacco black market, dude.
Yeah, it's really hard to get an illegal plant that grows anywhere.
I'm going to move to Britain, start my own enterprise, black market enterprise, and I'm going to call them the Hobbits.
Tobacco products to anyone born on or after January 1st, 2009.
meaning the legal age, now 18, will rise every year. It's a radical proposal, which public health charity ASH says is long overdue.
Every year it's just going to rise until what? It's at 80?
Yep,
the thing
and
is
no
with
one.
the thing is with cigarette is it doesn't really impair your judgment at all. It doesn't get you high. It doesn't get you drunk. So it's just, even if it's less healthy than consuming other like products and stuff that usually do get you high, that logic of, hey, like a young 18, 19-year-old, they might be a dumb fuck and not control their drinking. So let's raise the age to kind of like mitigate or try to lessen that from happening, whether you agree with it or not. But it is like, you know, when should somebody have the choice to make these or be able to make these decisions on their own? And I kind of think if they want to smoke cigarettes, they definitely know better at that age.
Completely proportionate response to the harms that smoking causes. It's really very difficult to think of another product that is even vaguely similar to cigarettes.
Smoking is the leading cause of preventable deaths in Britain, claiming up to 80,000 lives every year. Figures the government says will be slashed by this new legislation.
The UK government has predicted that by sometime in the 2040s, smoking rates among those aged 14 to 30 will be effectively zero. In a generation's time, you could see that tobacco becomes a footnote in history. It is truly a transformative moment for British society.
The legislation has broad political support, and according to a study commissioned by ASH, it's backed by 69% of the public, with just 12% against. For smokers at this London pub, nothing will change, but opinion is still divided.
But whatever laws they bring in, there's always a way to get around it, isn't it? It's just ridiculous. Just another nanny state thing, I suppose you call it, isn't it?
Where I'm in the older generation, it's easier. You take it for granted, basically. You can go to
What do you think of his tattoos?
buy them and that's it. So they've got the rules in of can't it, which should help the kids. And hopefully they'll have a better life than what our generation did.
But here at this London Youth Club, support among those it will affect is universal. Alfred is 14 and would never be able to legally buy tobacco products. He considers this a badge of honor.
It'd be very nice to be a part of that. I promise to never ever do it in my life. As my mum.
Okay, so they definitely should give them a substitute. So just make shrooms legal. Psilocybin, make that legal in Britain.
Marijuana, obviously,
Brother,
that's already legal there.
A while because they've smoked them, so that's why I'm thinking never to do it.
Alfred and his friends say they have.
Now, I was going to say that it's like, at least with weed, it gives you alternatives where you don't have to smoke it. But I guess you could take like just nicotine patches or some pure nicotine if you want to.
Never smoked.
Look, I'll cop to it here. I lit up my first cigarette at 10 years old. When I get stressed, I'll still buy a pack, and then it takes me a couple weeks to get back.
You were a little near to well.
Yeah, I started when I was 13.
Anyways,
Jesus,
I've quit vaping and smoking several times. When I get stressed, I pick it back up. It's a dirty little habit. But that being said, I've never tried any of like the fucking nicotine patch, nicotine gum, any of that shit. Because I've had friends who tried it and they said that shit gives you nightmares.
Yeah, I quit when I was 23, and it felt like it was gonna be difficult at first, and then it got pretty easy after the first like week.
It was easy until that stress really hit, and then I was like, "Fuck, I can really use a cigarette."
I never picked
I used to
a habit of smoking.
I used to smoke a pack a day.
Yeah, I prefer like running, like punching bags and stuff. That stuff gives you all that adrenaline rush and so forth. That definitely helps alleviate stress, tension, anxiety. Got to get all that excess energy out.
Smokers among their generation has dropped in recent years, while youth vaping has risen. In part, says Alfred, due to the way it's marketed.
People creating like more vapes and stuff like that, and cigarettes have been the same overall. And I think that's because there's like more flavors of vapes as well, so they might try a different flavor now and then, and they might like.
So when are they just going to make Adderall I don't know, over the shelf sort of like substance? Why does it need to be behind the shelf?
That one, and they just might like all of them.
Under the legislation, the government.
What's that?
Fair enough. That probably hit the meth market pretty hard if they just started selling OTC Adderall.
Well, I guess you could just take a bunch of L-triazine and you can take some caffeine pills, taurine and stuff, mix all that.
The government also plans to stop companies from marketing vapes to young people. But as far as Alfred's concerned, it should go even further.
Really far, as far as they can, like banning everything they get their hands on. Something to do with smoking, vaping, anything to do with smoking.
Dude, Alfred. That's such a British name.
A very British name.
Gary is preparing for life after his operation. He's part of a successful program designed to help people quit smoking.
For future generations, why put yourself in that position? If it was like that when I was younger, when I sort of started off and it was less available, then I wouldn't be here today.
MPs in the House of Commons have approved the legislation, and it is currently progressing through the House of Lords. If passed, Britain will become a world leader.
Okay, the House of Lords. So
that sounds badass. It sounds way cooler.
No.
We should change Congress to the House of Lords.
Well, yeah, that's their upper house when it comes to their legislative branch. So we have the House of Representatives and, of course, Congress, or the House of Congress. That's pretty much their version of Congress. And here's the thing. Do you think they're voted into office?
Yeah, duh.
Lordship.
They're appointed. And I think that it's not like the royal family where they're just kind of figureheads. They have power on paper, but they pretty much don't do anything with the power. So it is essentially like Parliament and the Prime Minister and so forth that do make all the decisions. But the House of Lords, that would be like if our Senate was 100% appointed.
They would probably love it.
Starting in 2020.
What's that?
I mean, the people in Senate now would probably love it.
7.
Oh, when I said the House of Congress, I meant the House of the Senate.
Yeah. I auto-corrected in my mind.
A highly unusual smuggling case, part of a disturbing and lucrative trend. A case that's crawled its way into the global headlines that got authorities feeling a little...
So they definitely should replace the... I guess, like, all the drug trafficking and human trafficking. All
smuggling
of the...
insects.
Yeah, they should just, like, invest in that instead. I think it's far more ethical. No, it's not great. Definitely, it's the lesser of the, I guess, the three evils.
Imagine sticking a thing up your ass with ants in it.
It's scary, dude. It's like
Poor Shab goes there.
Trying to keister the fucking bullet ant across state borders.
I'll
dude,
admit
that's
that
crazy.
I thought it, but I chose not to say it.
There's no way that guy fit all those ant tubes in his ass.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yes, ants.
He wouldn't have got caught if he would have.
Okay, so why are we? See, this is the problem.
Smuggling, Gene.
Yeah, he's smuggling. That doesn't automatically mean that he's doing it like anally.
We're
gotta be
theorizing
anally.
if he's not doing it right.
There's no other way.
Shut the fuck up, Shab.
Belgian teenagers have been fined more than $7,000 each for trying to smuggle thousands of giant African harvester ants out of Kenya. And if they don't pay, they could find themselves in
God, I
prison.
wonder how much each of them are worth.
They're not.
And
We're not criminals. We're naive. Oh, poor guy. Maybe he didn't know it was illegal to smuggle ants.
No, they knew. So this
that
is something
kid
that
looks like Brock fucking Turner.
let me actually go into the details. What a lot of these sort of criminal organizations do is they'll seek out young adults and be like, hey, we'll get you a hotel in this country. You can fly out. All you need to do is smuggle this across the border. And then, yeah, everything's good. And that's usually what they rely on is exploiting like young, dumb teens. They'll send people out to like parties and stuff or to campuses to try to find teenagers to do this or not, I guess, adult teens, young adults. And that's probably what they did to them. They probably confronted them like, hey, we got a job for you or whatever. It's very easy to get it through. Like you'll go to America, we'll get you a hotel, you get a little mini vacation, and then we'll give you this cut of the profits. And there you go. You get to make a lot of money and you get a free like vacation.
They were collecting the ants as a hobby, but authorities say the ants were actually destined for Europe and Asia, where hobbyists are willing to pay more than $200 for a single queen ant. Experts say these ants help aerate soil and spread seeds, playing a crucial role in the local ecosystem. Removing them could have serious environmental consequences.
Whenever you bring an organism from a different environment, you are likely to do some intervention for that organism to stabilize. Until it stabilizes, there is a likelihood it's not going to survive there.
It's the latest in a string of bizarre smuggling busts. A man in China tried to smuggle more than 100 live snakes, stuffing them into his pants. 2 German nationals tried to smuggle more than 2 tarantulas out of Colombia. And just last week, this man was caught smuggling parakeets stuffed in his boots at the U.S.-Mexican border. Officials
Do you think the parakeets enjoyed that?
That's so mean.
Probably had a great time. It was like a cruise for them.
Yeah.
Kenya say smugglers.
Now, what do you think's worse, a Belgian prison or a U.S. prison?
I couldn't tell you. Maybe Belgian, just because I haven't seen one of those. You know, foreign prisons sound scary.
Always.
Well, Belgium's in Europe. I don't, or Belgium. I don't know. Like, it is. I know it's not a Nordic country, but their prisons are definitely far more ethical and preferable over like a U.S. Supermax prison. But maybe Belgium, maybe their prisons are pretty fucked up.
Could be.
Used to focus on.
But the thing is, like, have you ever seen the show Locked Up Abroad?
That's what I was thinking when I'm thinking about foreign prisons. I'm like,
Well, the thing is, American prisons are pretty fucked up. So sometimes it's just they get locked up abroad in like South Korea and even certain countries in South America, and the prisons aren't even that bad. It's like, I think they got off they were pretty lucky. They went to a prison that like doesn't equate to them being fucking tortured. And then they don't have a criminal record once they return to the US. So sometimes it's like, maybe they should do a Locked Up Abroad episode of the United States. Because I think a lot of like European prisons or prisons in other developed countries, if they got arrested in the United States and went to some US prisons, that probably would be a very traumatic experience.
Large animal species, but the new trend is to
I think if some people from England or Finland, if they watch some documentaries of people smuggling stuff in America and then going to an American prison, they'd probably be like, "Ooh, fuck! I'm never gonna get arrested in America."
To target lesser known species.
It's the disturbing TikTok trend, putting kids in danger in classrooms across multiple states. A growing number of videos posted to TikTok.
This seems very fucking smart. You gotta love all these like TikTok trends.
Great kids.
This is what makes older people hate the fucking internet.
Appearing to show kids sticking school supplies like pencils and paper clips in their Chromebooks, sparking electrical fires and releasing toxic smoke.
And then it triggers the fire alarm, and then no school. Yay!
Yay!
Dude, okay, so when I was in high school, there was a kid, he put a smoke bomb in the toilet. And everyone just, like, kind of evacuated the school like it was a typical fire drill, and then they saw the smoke rise, and they're all like, yes!
It's Newington High School, forcing an evacuation.
It became clear that the damage was done intentionally, that it wasn't a malfunctioning Chromebook, but rather a student had intentionally done things to it that caused it to smoke and eventually melt.
Thankfully, no one at the school was injured. But the town's fire marshal, DJ Zordan, telling us it's not just the fire that poses a threat. What is the potential danger these students might be putting themselves and others in?
Maybe electrocuting themselves?
There is a risk of electrocution, depending on
who would have thunk it?
Foremost.
If there's a fire, it's producing toxic smoke. We don't want people breathing that stuff. The lithium batteries are volatile, so
yeah, and the silicon.
There's a potential that you're going to injure people around you.
At least 2 other schools in the state also reporting Chromebook fires.
The hallway's filling with smoke. We went in and ended up finding a laptop in a classroom that was pretty much out but on fire at one point.
Great, yeah.
The trend popping up in
where are all our fucking viewers?
From coast to coast.
They tried to see if the graphite in their fucking charger USB port would put their laptops on fire.
They got curious watching this.
Yeah.
School district in Washington posting online saying a student started a Chromebook fire with a pin. There's no one clear reason why students are doing this. One of the
there was a
simply
bunch
reading,
in that
quote,
one.
anything but work. Zordan says parents have to educate their children on the dangers involved.
You have to educate your students. You have to educate your
we
children.
definitely need to get on, like, following through with this brain rot episode. I definitely agree. Like, we're doing something to our youth. They are getting dumber. I don't know. Maybe I'm crossing that threshold. I'm almost 30. Kids these fucking days. Sticking sharp objects in the fucking laptops.
For a brain rot series.
The fork in the electrical socket challenge.
Like, parents need to educate their kids on not sticking like metal objects into like electrical products.
Hazards.
Yeah.
So that way we can try to prevent this from happening.
Tonight, a spokesperson for TikTok.
Parents need to sit down with their 13, 14-year-old kid and give them the talk that you shouldn't stick a fork in an electrical outlet or a toaster.
NBC News, these videos are not exclusive to their platform, and saying search terms like Chromebook challenge have been...
Yeah, it's going to be That's gonna be the next big TikTok thing, putting forks in outlets. Check it out, kids.
Yeah. Don't put, like, I don't know, gooey fucking toys with a bunch of chemicals in them in the microwave. Don't do that.
Google, which makes the
parents need to be educated in regards to needing to educate their kids on not putting toys in the microwave. That's where we're at now.
Systems for Chromebooks did not respond to our request for comment, as school administrators now promise to crack down on the students responsible.
For a student who would do that deliberate destruction of school property, they will have a very serious consequence.
And Rahima Ellis joins us now on set. So Rahima, let's pick up.
What do you think their consequence will be?
Grounded.
60 lashes? Nah.
Up where your piece left off. An investigation is ongoing.
Solitary confinement.
Straight
now, they'll
to the
probably
brig.
When I was younger, that was something that would get you expelled. Like the kid who put the smoke bomb in the toilet got expelled. Which I do think it's a bit harsh because things like, I don't know, a smoke bomb or bringing a squirt gun to school seems to be treated like it's far more serious than beating the shit out of another kid. It's like, there are kids that get expelled because they come to school and they have like a lighter and a cigarette pack in their pocket. They're not even smoking in school. And it's like being caught with that sort of like drug, like contraband, that's treated like it's far more of an offense than subjecting somebody to serious acts of violence.
Yeah,
ultimately,
it really doesn't make much sense because if the kid really wanted to do a school shooting, you just piss him off more by doing that shit. You're not gonna help with it. Then he's gonna be like, you know what? I'm really gonna do something. You know.
To be fair,
does it help?
The overwhelming majority of kids don't commit school shootings, so there's probably other much more significant things that negatively affect people when they get expelled over stupid shit like that. Then,
well, my point is that even if someone was going to actually come through and do that with a real gun and stuff, is doing that to them going to detour them? Like, oh, you brought a Lego gun to school. Let's make a big deal out of it and stuff. I don't know. I think if anything, that's gonna lead to more gun stuff going on.
Guess,
you know?
But
Gene,
consequences could these students?
A dude I knew, a friend of mine in high school, got expelled because he was Googling body armor on the.
Yeah, they're like people are complaining about, I guess, the younger generation, like they're calling Gen Alpha like the COVID generation. And it's just, do they still like suspend kids for this kind of crap? So it seems like they've been more lenient when it comes to the policies. Like, kids will yell at me and they don't get expelled. But I still think it's fucking retarded, like, where, kids consume violent media. A kid, like, Googling types of weapons in the latest Halo game. I think it kind of shows how dumb educators can be. The fact that they think that that's something significant.
The New England Public Schools sent out this message to students and parents all across their district, letting them know this is extremely serious and that there could be very dire consequences for these kids who are engaged in this, but not just the students, but their parents. These Chromebooks cost about $400, and they're saying that the students and families would be held responsible if they can see that the particular student was connected with this. In addition, the fire marshal, who you saw in our piece, has determined that this was intentional. As a consequence, they have a responsibility to report it to the police. They are investigating and say, if needed, there will be criminal charges filed.
NBC's Rahima Ellis, thank you. Tonight, a former...
Well, I do think another problem is we've discussed how fucked up cops are. They installing cops into schools. And then it's something where, and I mentioned violence, so I don't think kids should be expelled because they have some cigarettes in their pocket and shit. And I don't think kids should be expelled if they get into a minor fist fight. I think if a kid seriously injures another kid, then you definitely should expel them. But there are instances of just a 12-year-old hits another kid and then they're put in handcuffs and it has to go through the criminal court system. I think that's kind of excessive.
That happened to me.
Yeah, that's stupid, and it's just school, not a very natural setting. When you take hundreds of kids and cram them in one building.
Got in trouble for winning a damn fight. Un-American.
Yeah. So this is an element of bureaucracy where it kind of shows that people that have that, like your social workers, your educators, they have this sort of bureaucrat syndrome where they don't know how to think outside of like the legal sort of policy. And even though this is behavior that is fairly normal for kids, and even though when it comes to the science, like what's actually healthy for kids and what's actually more beneficial to kids, well, because this is how things work and this is how things are structured, this is how things should be structured. So it goes against the law to hit somebody. So I don't know, like a 10-year-old hits somebody, like slaps them in the wrist, and now they need to face criminal charges and go through
straight to the gulag.
Yeah, but then it's still legal for parents to hit their kids.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the
Almost 94 million miles from Earth, a powerful light show on the surface of the sun. The bursts of radiation are the strongest solar flares so far this year, but issues flaring up back on Earth. Shortwave radio.
Ooh. Yeah. So if there's a large enough like solar burst, it could like I guess deactivate every single electrical appliance on the planet, and even permanently disable any sort of like electrical compliance. So when it comes to some of the theories, comes to like, you know, the end of society or societal collapse, that's one of the fears that people have. And NASA has this one probe satellite that forget which inner planet that it's like I guess orbiting or that it's between, but it's designed to pick up on the like flare before it actually happens. So then the governments can actually shut off all the electronics before it actually reaches the planet. And then that way everything won't just be completely I guess what's the term used? I guess it won't be destroyed, but it will be it's called when you make like an electronic inert or something. But yeah, so but imagine that. Imagine like every single power plant facility gets hit with this and they all just kind of permanently malfunction. And it's just every single like electrical appliance needs to be rebuilt or restructured or replaced. How long do you think it would take society to recover from that?
It would take. I really think, and this is me showing my pessimism here. I think if that happened, like people would probably just go fucking ape shit. I think if people, I think if everyone in the single, this just goes to show how fragile we are. Genuinely, I think if all of us were immediately ripped away from the doom scrolling, every fucking human at the same time was told go outside. I think we'd see some shit.
Wouldn't end well.
I think we'd see some shit happen. And I'll say this. It might create a lot of jobs, as you know, people who figure out how to do this. But at the same time, I think immediately people be like, it was the EMP. It's all a psyop. Fuck a solar flare. That's just what they're telling us. I think it would be chaos.
Well, the problem is if that happens, then they won't be able to use cell phones, radio, or phones in general, radio, internet. So there won't be any sort of indirect communication. And I mean, of course, like it's not like they're not going to have the means to rebuild this stuff and restructure, but it's going to take some time. And then I guess they probably just declare, at least in the United States, martial law in every single state.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Blackouts have been reported on 5 different continents. A NOAA forecaster says the flare today occurred as the sun.
Now, I think there will be a lot of disorderly conduct, a lot of like riots and pillaging and shit like that. But I do think that in a lot of countries, especially like the United States, I think that's probably one of the benefits of having it. So the governments are kind of fragmented, where each state kind of has a notable level of like autonomy, or is the governors can declare martial law within their own state, and then the governments of that state probably will be able to gather enough professionals to get enough tech functioning for the government, and they could probably keep things in check until they get things in control. So I don't know.
Fake news. You're not basing this on any fucking facts or evidence. This is all rhetoric, John. It's all hoopla.
Libtard propaganda.
Solar cycle.
Right now, we're kind of at the peak of one of those cycles of activity.
Scientists say the geomagnetic storms are caused by massive flares of plasma from the sun, specifically sunspots.
The X-rays that are coming out of those flares are actually striking a layer of our Earth's atmosphere that we bounce radio waves off of. And it's actually deforming that layer and causing a lot of disruptions.
Smaller flares happen regularly, but when they get strong enough, they can light up the sky in the form of aurora borealis in select corners of the world.
This is actually so sick.
Sometimes outbursts, turning skies pink and green further south than usual, bringing a light show to lucky residents in places
So,
like...
Dirt, what state of matter is plasma?
Plasma's a gas?
Nope.
Shit. Liquid?
It's plasma.
Fuck, I thought there was 3 states of matter.
No, there's more.
Oh, fuck. I'm gonna...
There's like a dozen.
I'm gonna commit slip and slide.
Yeah. Plasma is when a gas is or it's ionization. So you know how you have like condensation and so forth, all the transformations. So when a gas becomes a plasma, it's at the point where all its particles are ionized.
Chicago, Pennsylvania, even as far as Alabama this same time last year. Scientists say the sun reached its solar maximum last year with its largest flare in October. When the Earth gets bombarded by streams of charged particles, the flares can also disrupt cell phone service, GPS, and satellite communications. They can even wipe out power grids. And in space, they can actually put spacecrafts and astronauts at risk. All of it causing a firestorm online.
As we just had a powerful X2.7 solar flare.
Nobody's talking about what these solar flares are really doing to your energy.
As for that major blackout in Spain and Portugal a few weeks ago that grounded planes and disrupted hospital operations...
Yeah, dude, my energy's been way off since all these solar flares, bro. I need to realign my chakras and shit, dude.
Giving everyone like migraines.
But
real bad
nothing
vibes,
to indicate
dude.
solar flares are to blame, despite viral speculation. And at the center of all the activity in the last 24 hours, the sunspot known as AR4087, currently not directed at our planet, but rotating towards it, meaning the Earth might be out of the line of fire, but not for long.
Marissa Parra is joining us now.
So, when do you think a meteorite's going to hit the planet?
Right now.
Dude. Watch it be... Okay, so what if we have World War III and it's going on for like a year
Right in the
or
middle
two?
of World War III.
Yeah,
dude.
yeah. There's all this like gridlock stalemate. Artillery's flying, entire like towns are being shelled with like carpet bombings and shit, and then it's like a meteorite hits.
If that goes down, I just hope
And then
I
every
have
single-
enough time to find God, because that sounds like Judgment Day.
Yeah. And then, plot twist, we get hit with a giant fucking solar flare, and every single super volcano erupts as well. All at once.
Who knew, right? Could this thing get bigger? Like, could this explode more in the days to come?
Chimpanzees in Uganda have been observed using medicinal plants to treat open wounds and other ailments. Scientists who've been following and observing the chimpanzees...
Never mind, I think the chimps are learning. They're becoming more sentient and stuff, so I think they're going to take over humanity.
that they use plants to carry out first aid on themselves and occasionally on each other. The findings are published in the journal Frontiers in Ecology and Evolution. Here's our science correspondent, Victoria Gill.
Yeah, or astronauts like in the International Space Station. They're like trying to make sure that solar flares and meteorites aren't going to destroy our planet. They're going to come back and they're going to find Statue of Liberty buried. It's like they finally did it, destroyed it all. It's maniacs.
This young chimpanzee is doing something subtle but extraordinary. He's chewing plant material and dabbing it onto a wound on his knee.
She's watching him again.
It's just one example of how the chimpanzees of Budongo Forest in Uganda use plants to treat their injuries.
I think he's exposing himself too much.
Researchers have spent years watching these chimps as they go about their daily lives. They've discovered and just published a whole repertoire of chimpanzee first aid, some of which involves the apes using forest plants that are known to have healing properties. This footage shows an adult male dabbing a wound with a leaf from a plant that's also sometimes gathered by local people for medicinal use. And it's tricky to see in this shaky footage, but watch this young...
So I think this is like an example of monkey see, monkey do, or whatever. They realize that when they interact with this, it makes them feel better. So they just continue. They learn through habit, and then or apes are smart enough where if one ape learns something, they can observe another ape do something, and they can adopt the behavior. But the thing is, they don't have language, so they can't really, communicate it and teach it and pass it down to younger generations.
Female on the left. She's dabbing...
We didn't start with language, John. We had to figure that shit out. We didn't start with language either, John, did we?
Yes, we did.
As hominids, that's what separates the part Homo sapien is vocalized language.
Well, no, there were Homo sapiens before us, like that had spoken language.
There were a lot of homos before us that didn't have spoken language, John.
Well, before our ancestors that did have spoken language. So the whole point is there were already ancestors of humans that had spoken language before humans or modern humans. And there's parts of our brains that were specifically developed for vocalization and spoken language. So it is something that is a natural facet of human evolution.
But we had to start somewhere, is what I'm saying, John. You know, we didn't just...
Well, not us. The animals we evolved from gradually developed that ability.
On her mother's body. Rare evidence of wild chimps using...
Damn, Dirt.
I'm talking about us as all the way back, John, until we were, you know, all the way back.
Oh, so you're saying all Homo sapiens are the same?
All homos are equal, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Plants to tend to each other's injuries.
Some of the plants that the chimpanzees are using for these wound care behaviors actually have known traditional uses in...
Nice save, Dirt.
Bill Hicks, what's your problem? Do you not like a little bit of trivia? Are you saying I'm wrong? I'm full of shit? Whenever I bring up the astronomy trivia, the anthropology trivia, the like military tech trivia, Bill Hicks is always like, yeah, whatever.
Human medicine. And others have pharmacological properties that are actually known to have wound healing components that help either prevent against infection or also reduce inflammation.
In captivity, life for a chimpanzee is very different. But here at Chester Zoo in the UK, keepers have seen some strikingly similar behaviour.
If they've got minings, there's like a little cut here and there. Some of the more...
Do you think that one chimp is currently breastfeeding?
Maybe.
Here and there. Some of the...
Well, usually when your tits are exposed like that, or that pronounced, it's usually a sign that there's some suckling going on.
I don't do that much speculation about chimpanzee lactation, John. All right, tag me out, Shabisky. I need to get a beer.
They're so clever that we know our chimps here.
Now they fucked up the interface.
And we know a lot about them, but learning from the wild is stuff that we'd never even thought they could do. And so if they use them first aid...
That's why I do this and bring up my logo.
Here and see if they do the same reaction.
This ongoing research is revealing just how much insight these intelligent primates have into the
See, when I wear a beanie, I'm Tim Pool. When I don't, I'm Shane Dawson.
Around them.
I'm telling you, we got to do the gene pool bit.
The secrets of this place.
Yeah, you are like Shane Dawson.
30-year-old Adriana Smith was about 9 weeks pregnant when she started having bad headaches.
So Zidane shared, or no, I think it was Dirt, Zidane, and Arkle shared the story with me.
In February.
Enough to know that something was wrong.
April Newkirk says her daughter...
I heard about this with you.
Some medication, but they didn't test. Didn't do any CT scans. If they did, they would have caught it.
The next morning, Adriana's boyfriend noticed something was terribly wrong.
She was gasping for air in her sleep, gargling. More than likely it was blood. She was taken to Emory, Decatur, and then she was transferred here.
To Emory University Hospital, where Adriana worked as an RN. Unfortunately, there was nothing doctors could do.
They did a CT scan and she had blood clots all in her head. So they had asked me if they could do a procedure to relieve them, and I said yes. And then they called me back and they said that they couldn't do it.
Doctors declared Adriana brain dead.
I felt as if somebody dropped the ball at the hospitals, and her boyfriend asked, please keep her. If she was kept at the hospital, we wouldn't be here.
Because of Georgia's heartbeat bill, which bans abortions after a fetal heartbeat is detected, her family says they weren't given any say in what happens next.
It's torture for me. I come here and I see my daughter breathing.
Do you think, regardless of whether you're pro or anti-abortion, do you think this is one of those extreme examples where it should be allowed? Yeah. Do you think it's too draconian to say that in a case like this, the child needs to be delivered?
Well, you're going to cut your losses like that, John? In the age of modern medicine, there's a perfectly good child in there. So if we just plug this corpse up
I'm pretty sure
technology, well, we could save this child's life, John.
I'm pretty sure that since she's brain dead, her body isn't really functioning properly. So the child probably isn't going to, like, develop.
My golly, John, we can try.
Ah.
She's not there.
God works in mysterious ways. It's going to be a miracle baby, John. Watch.
Now, 21 weeks pregnant, her baby's health uncertain.
I guess fetus lives matter.
With my grandson, but my grandson may be blind.
But once a fetus becomes a non-fetus, then that's where they're on their own, and they got to stop asking for handouts.
Wheelchair bound. We don't know if he'll live once she has him.
A situation she says no one should be forced into.
It should have been left up to the family because I'm in my 50s, her dad is in his 50s, so we're going to have the responsibility with her partner to raise her sons, you know? And I'm not saying that we would have chose to terminate her pregnancy. What I'm saying is we should have had a choice. We should have had a choice.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated.
Well, look at them trying to make decisions on like without her consent, her behalf.
The mother says she is
Fuck her behalf. The mother's input doesn't matter. The father of the child's input doesn't matter. This woman is this woman and her child are in custody of the state.
In
this woman's corpse.
who is brain dead because of Georgia's abortion law.
April Newkirk says that hospital officials told her that her daughter could not be removed from life support because of the state law. Fox 5's Deidre Dukes is live at the state capitol with more on a case that has captured national attention. Deidre?
Adriana Smith, we are told, has been on life support.
Looks like they're just going over the same thing.
A massive manhunt underway in Louisiana after 10 inmates, including a convicted murderer, broke out of a jail in New Orleans. One of them has already been caught, but the other 9, they're officials say that they have help. The escape first noticed
Free at last.
This morning.
Where do you think they'll go?
Just wait till you see what they wrote on the wall, by the way, because I read about this.
Now, do you think it should be illegal to harbor a fugitive?
Yeah, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you say that, but what if you're harboring a Jewish fugitive in Nazi Germany in World War II? Do you think that should be illegal?
All black and white then, John.
Oh, okay.
But one time I was at a place where we were accused of harboring a fugitive. And it was a nice man. The man
did it, didn't you?
No. The man's name was Smiley. He was a cool guy. He always smiled. That's because he was always on ecstasy pills. Now, granted, when he arrived, Smiley was at the place I was at for probably 20 minutes, and we sat there just smoking weed or whatever. And then next thing you know, we hear, "Open up. We know you're in there harboring a fugitive. If you send him out now, there won't be any trouble." And we look at bro because, well, he's the only newcomer here. And old Smiley, he scatters. So literally, like, we're looking over, and so dude goes to the bathroom, opens a window, and looks down, and there's a cop standing there like this, and he says, "What do you want me to do, son? Catch you?" And he said, "Fuck it, I'm coming out. Can I smoke a cigarette?" We handcuffed him to the front, and sure enough, they let Smiley smoke a cigarette.
That's why we need to ban cigarettes. Now, Bill Hicks says, "Ew, Gene. What are you saying ew about?"
Edie Weiss has a story.
Ugh.
The Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office says the prisoners removed a toilet in this cell and cut a hole in the thin wall they could crawl through. The inmates.
Now, I have seen a lot of different prison. I have seen a lot of different prison breaks where they have, destroyed the. Yeah, they had destroyed the toilet or removed the toilet to get through.
Obscene messages for the guards.
Too easy with 1 O. LOL, dude. Too easy. That's so funny.
You think there's a higher percentage of or a greater amount of illiteracy amongst the prison population? Yep.
Too easy. Sheriff Susan Hudson.
They were still able to exit the jail about 1:01 a.m. After breaching a wall behind a toilet in the jail, they were seen exiting a door on the docks where we normally bring in supplies, scaling a wall, and running across the interstate shortly thereafter.
Guess in Shawshank, he escaped through their sewage system.
Yeah, but
it seems like the
these
sewage
guys,
system is. Yeah.
They figured out they didn't need to crawl through the shit. They could just cut through the wall.
Yeah.
Rip the toilet out and go through the wall. Funny, dude.
But that's happened.
Good for these guys. I love a good little.
That seems to happen a lot in prisons where they remove the toilet and then they, I guess, creates an opening and they find their way out that way. So it seems like whoever's the architects behind designing the prison, maybe they need to be more mindful of that common exploit.
Look, I say good for these guys, but a lot of things I say are spoken in satirical nature. So that being said, yes, I know there is a murderer among them. These are probably not generally people you want running amok. And I hate to use that word for a human, but if you've ripped the toilet out of a wall to escape a prison and then you're running across the interstate, then yes, that is the definition of running amok. Would you not agree?
Yeah. Definitely, if you're going to harbor a prisoner, make sure that they're not guilty of something like murder. Fair point, Dirk.
Head count 7 hours after the escape. 9 total hours passed before the sheriff alerted the public.
You got to go inside the facility to be able to see. They could have been anywhere. Then we had to first prioritize talking to victims to make sure they were safe.
1 inmate was captured hiding under a car in a hotel garage in the French Quarter. Among those on the loose are 3 accused of murder. Derek
3 murderers.
Was convicted in a
accused murderers.
Okay, so the one that looks the most like a psychopath They're probably the one that committed the murder.
Shooting.
See, no, you're right. Hold up. This isn't even a prison break, John. These people haven't even been sentenced. They're waiting at the jailhouse. Or, well, I guess some people do serve their sentences in the jailhouse. They don't ever get sent to prison. I don't know. I haven't been sentenced for too many crimes.
We do acknowledge there is no way.
How extensive is your criminal record, Dirt?
Non-existent. Would you believe
Maybe
that?
I need to do a background check on you.
Do it. Come up clean.
People can get out of this facility without there being some type of lapse in security.
The sheriff's office is laying blame on the city for not funding prison security upgrades, saying they've been asking for help for 5 years.
You said you've been asking for money for a long time. How much money do you need at this point?
The locks alone, I believe, are 5.2 million. Yeah, just the locks. I mean, you
Well, we need to spend all the money on deporting all the illegals, because making sure murderers stay in prison, that's clearly less of a priority.
5.2 million.
And Louisiana's Attorney General has called the escape, quote, beyond unacceptable, saying the public should have been notified sooner. Katie Weiss,
So-
News, New Orleans. To that breaking news, a man.
Man.
Yeah.
How do they, I mean, there had to have been like some sort of knowledge of being like, hey, there's no way that they'll be looking at this time. So this is our chance to draw our message above the toilet and rip it out of the wall and go. I mean, there's a degree of organization there, which, you know, I can appreciate.
Yes.
Manhunt underway for 7
See, there's different types of intelligence. So even if you're not that smart when it comes to grammar, still be smart when it comes to being an escape artist.
inmates still on the run more than 24 hours after escaping from the
What's that?
It's too easy, John.
Yeah.
Orleans Parish Jail. We learned overnight that another 2 escapees were recaptured.
Yeah. It's not the appositive 2. It's the, what would that be? Too many, so I guess it would be an adjective.
Too easy. It's
or no,
he's
it's an
saying that
adverb.
it is too.
So too easy, too many. So an adverb modifies a verb or an adjective or another adverb. So I'm guessing 2 is an adverb.
Captured, bringing the total number to 3. WTSC reporter Ariel Brumfield joining us live from the sheriff's office, where she is tracking those.
Okay.
Yeah, there's book smart, street smart, and prison smart. I like that. There's levels to this shit, John.
Yes. Multifaceted.
Now to the urgent manhunt this morning following a mass escape from a New Orleans jail.
And then there's everybody gets trophy smart.
Say 10 men got out and at least 3 have already been recaptured. ABC's Maria Varelli has more.
New images and details emerging from inside that New Orleans jail where 10 inmates dug their way out. Surveillance video showing 2 of the men rigorously pulling on a cell door that police say lead.
It seems like I don't know. There was a lack of supervision, and it seems like they had a lot of time unintended to
they had some
fall
time
through something like this.
Outside, then watches all 10.
It was too
out of the
easy.
building through a loading dock door and onto the interstate.
We think this was intentional. There is much more than meets the eye.
Authorities say the group took advantage of defective locks on their usual cells and making their way here, removing a bolted toilet from the wall to create their escape.
All of this have been removed and these have been clean cut. We have reason to believe that there was some assistance with this.
Scrawled on the wall above, "We innocent" and "Too easy" with an arrow.
We innocent.
I don't know. We innocent. We are innocent.
Escaped out of view of the officer on duty. Authorities say they broke out around 1
Yeah,
a.m.
and what is it? Are? That's a to be verb. Is. Yeah.
Early Friday morning, but officers didn't
Look up the to be verbs.
realize what happened until an official head count took place at 8:30, more than 7 hours later. Police say at the time of the incident, there were no deputies at that unit, and the assigned technician had stepped away to get food.
We know that they had help. We're showing you they had help. This was coordinated.
So far, 3 of the 10 escapees found hours later, 1 hiding beneath a car at a hotel in the French Quarter, and now a multi-agency manhunt intensifying for 7 more suspects, some facing murder charges, all considered armed and dangerous.
It is a disaster of epic proportions that I haven't seen, and there will certainly be an inquiry.
Epic proportion. Okay, so I do think this is definitely an issue. You can classify it as a disaster. I don't think it's of epic proportions. I think that's being a bit too overly dramatic.
Everyone who played any role in helping these individuals get out of jail, everyone is going to be charged and prosecuted.
At this hour, those 7 men.
You think they had some assistance from the inside, John? You think they had somebody on payroll to pull
Yeah,
off
most
scheme
likely.
like that?
They were paying them in cigarettes. Cigarettes are currency in prison. I learned that from Shawshank.
To land on the least habitable planet in our solar system. Instead, it's been falling back to Earth for over 50 years.
Probe 671 was one of nearly 30 missions the Soviet Union sent to explore Venus. It launched in 1972, during the heyday of space exploration.
It got as far as orbiting the Earth in a low parking orbit, and the upper stage fired to send it out into orbit towards Venus. And halfway through that rocket burn, the rocket sputtered out.
It was relabeled Cosmos 482, a ball of forgotten space junk. But not to all. Government space agencies and a growing...
See, this is why you shouldn't trust the Soviets. The damn commies with all the space exploration. Leave it to the capitalists.
Group of hobby astronomers have been watching it and trying to prove its unique origin.
It was just a Sputnik and everything. That was just a conspiracy
story ever since.
Really, what's changed is that amateurs have much more capabilities now that sort of rival what.
I thought you said really.
The government seems to be able to do, and so you can get independent public information on what's going on.
65 years into the space age, those Russian missions to Venus...
Bill Hicks is right. Space is fake, because we all know that's really like the firmament.
Yeah, the firmament. That ever reached the planet's surface. They sent back photographs and even the sound of its hot top.
No, Earth is hollow, not flat, young RJ. Get it right.
It's hollow and flat, like a
and it's an isosceles triangle.
Scientists say it's time to go back. Europe and China will launch Venus probes within the next 5 years. The U.S. space agency NASA will too, if threats of...
Do you think it's possible to colonize Venus?
No. Isn't Venus made of gas?
No. It's
No, that's the one closest to the sun.
No, Mercury is closest to the sun, but Venus is the hottest planet because it is surrounded by very forget what all the gases are, but it's pretty much has an atmosphere of fucking mustard gas.
Budget cuts will halt the project. But surprisingly, if all goes well, a private company called Rocket Labs will get there first, as soon as next year. Venus holds clues to life back on Earth. Our two worlds are similar, but runaway climate change ravaged our neighbor long ago. And though the claims have been challenged, some astronomers saw traces of gases in its poisonous atmosphere that they say could be produced by simple life forms.
We're trying to revisit the cloud particles.
So am I.
I'm kind of skeptical that life exists in Venus. Maybe Archaean bacteria, or I think maybe I'm pronouncing it right. Do you know what Archaean bacteria is?
No, you don't. You're trying to say you don't believe in aliens, John?
I believe in aliens. I think that it's more likely they exist than not. But
you're trying to say they're bacteria.
Well, what is it? Archaean bacteria can survive in lava and very, very, very harsh sort of environments. So, and then there's tardigrades that aren't, I don't think they're technically bacteria, but they can survive in the vacuum of space. So there definitely is bacteria that probably do exist in even the harshest sort of planets, like gas giants or in the atmosphere of Venus. So it wouldn't shock me if there's, and the thing is, even if it's something maybe some space junk from one of our vessels makes its way to a planet like Venus, that bacteria might be able to, it hitched a ride, it might be able to evolve form of migration. I know they crashed a satellite, NASA, into some I think they crashed it into Venus or whatever because it was on its way to, I forget which moon it was, but they didn't want to, once they found out that there was bacteria or microscopic organisms that could survive the vacuum of space, they didn't want to risk finding bacteria that just hitched a ride from Earth.
Far above the scorching surface, way above, at 50 kilometers above the surface, it's actually the right temperature for life.
And since we know that there's bacteria that can survive in space, so it does kind of substantiate that one hypothesis that maybe there's a meteorite that hit the planet and there was Archaean bacteria on it.
And at that altitude, there are clouds, lots of thick clouds that are
Look it up, Archaean bacteria. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it properly.
always there, currently covering the entire planet. And those clouds are made of liquid droplets. And so that's what we think is very interesting.
A crash landing of a time capsule from one age of discovery at the horizon of another. Colin Baker, Al Jazeera.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.
And tonight on The Future of Everything, we're tracking some pretty sketchy space junk that...
Somebody says also, the things that are poisonous to carbon-based life forms may not be to non-carbon-based life forms. True. What if we have mercury-based life forms?
What I'm getting at is archaea. Yeah.
Archaebacteria. It's like archaeology, but archaebacteria.
Huh. Well, I do think so. We're talking about like mercury life forms or whatever, which if that was the case, they'd be very toxic if you came into contact with them. But what if, antimatter, how that works when it comes into contact with regular matter?
No.
It neutralizes, so they kind of like go poof or whatever. I kind of have a layman's understanding of it, but after the Big Bang happened and all like the particles existed, there was a big war, cataclysm, or a big, collision of different matter and antimatter particles, and matter won the war. So something like 99.999% of matter was eliminated, but then 99.99999% of antimatter was eliminated. But what if like a meteorite of antimatter actually hits our planet? Because it is out there. It's not that uncommon. And what if there are life forms that are made of antimatter? So
Could
what if
antimatter condense to a form that would spear into us like a meteorite, John?
Yeah. So the thing is, if antimatter ended up winning that little war or whatever, then we would probably just be calling that matter, and we'd be calling our matter antimatter.
Come crashing down this weekend in a big way. This is a half a ton right here. Soviet-era spacecraft launched about a half a century ago. It is headed back to Earth, and it is a tricky trajectory with experts expecting it to come down any area over here. We don't exactly know yet.
There's going to be there's going to be archaea sort of bacteria that are made up of antimatter particles, and they're going to come into contact and destroy our planet.
Only a few parts of the world are ruled out, including the west coast of the United States, thankfully. Most of Africa also getting a dodge here, and most of Russia, Northern Europe. But these red dots, all these red dots along the trajectory lines right here, those are cities with at least 1 million people. So if you're thinking, yeah, but we have our...
Shucks, I'm out of the trajectory range, John. I won't die to a Russian satellite this year.
Soviet satellite.
Right, it'll burn up in the atmosphere. Yeah, maybe, but there's a plot twist. The Russian...
This nation, or this particular, probe or whatever, anything it accomplishes, we shouldn't actually acknowledge that there's anything worth crediting, because Stalin was behind the Soviet Union, so you got to associate it with his evil.
Yeah, he's a bad guy.
Designed this thing to land on Venus, where the average temperature is something like 900 degrees Fahrenheit. It's got one heck of a heat shield that might keep it intact as it comes screaming back down to Earth. Nothing to worry about, right? So let's bring in Jonathan McDowell. He is an astronomer at the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysicists.
Eastside Bmore, so I guess they're fellow Baltimorean.
Oh, dude, we just seen this guy with the Temu Galaxy T-shirt. He's all over the story. He's the expert.
But I'm talking to the chat now, so stop derailing things, Dirt. But I don't know. They're calling us gay.
Who's gayer, me or this guy?
With us, like, should we be worried here, or
Why do you hate gay people so much, Eastside Baltimore?
We're all gay.
Are you a homophobe?
Gene, are you from Eastside Baltimore?
It's Westside Baltimore.
Oh, fuck. So there's beef here, dude. You're going to have to meet up with Eastside Bmore. And you're going to have to settle this out like men.
Yeah.
In Minecraft.
Use the gay mod.
Someday, the West Side will take over the East Side. We'll make it happen.
You is minuscule. And so I wouldn't lose
I'm
any
in
sleep.
LA.
I wonder if there's somebody that knows me in real life.
Having said that, right, no, you're fine. I think the latest predictions are moving away from all of the United States as a possible impact zone anyway. It's going to be half a ton, falling out of the sky at a couple hundred miles an hour. If it hits you on the head, you're going to have a really bad day. But,
Do you think what he's saying is valid? That if this object collides with your cranium, that you might deal with a notable injury?
No, it's unlikely.
Okay. The chance
Well, we're not just going to believe what an expert tells us. What do they know?
It's more of a question.
This is just the hazards of science. If a Soviet satellite that was launched in the 1980s lands on your fucking head, you were just a victim of science. That's just how it goes.
Maybe Pol Pot was onto something. All this science and academics and modernity and stuff. Definitely, we need to go back to everybody working in rice fields.
Spacecraft left over from the Cold War, re-entering now and again. Probably we should clean that up. This time we'll dodge it, but eventually we're going to roll the dice and someone's going to get hurt. So I think, at a big picture...
Chad's been gone for a while.
He's taking a drunk pee. John, have you ever, drank more than 6 beers and had to pee?
I think Shab definitely disappears more than he should.
He's doing cardio. He's got to keep himself fit.
This is just a nice.
Just in case there was any question of it, I am here. Putting up the logo does not mean I'm gone.
Are you eating?
It's knocking on our door after 50 years ago.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, delightful. And we definitely need a
roast beef sandwich.
Space garbage truck going out there and just, taking care of all this business. But like, what went so wrong 50 years ago? We shot this thing at Venus. Like, how did this aimlessly orbit Earth for 50 plus years? And how is it now crashing back a half a century later?
So Bill Hicks says he doesn't contribute anyway. Yeah, but he's the one working OBS. So if something happens, then we're fucked. And that's happened a few times.
Right. So what you do
Hey. He contributes just fine.
Yeah.
Into a little tight orbit around the Earth, and then he's
touching grass right now. He disappeared into the meadow.
No, he's not touching grass. He walked away from the grass.
He disappeared into the meadow, John. That's the Elysian field. All right. He's part of a new incorporeal realm. All right. Get off his ass.
Good afternoon. We are coming on the air, streaming at this hour with breaking news out of Palm Springs, where a massive explosion took place outside a fertility clinic right across the street from a major hospital in.
Oh shit, John! A fertility clinic. What do those do?
So if you have a terrorist group where their primary target is fertility clinics, what should you call the terrorist group?
The
pieces of shit.
What's that?
The pieces
Probably
of shit.
pieces of shit.
It's not a creative name or a creative title.
Right now, this is a live look from Air 7 of that fertility clinic, and you can see there is extensive damage to this building. We believe the car was parked on the left side of your screen in the parking lot, but the force of it sent part of that
car bomb
to the street. That is actually Palm Canyon Drive on that side of the road.
Is it maybe like the celibate syndicate?
This is the American Reproductive Centers. It happened about 11 o'clock today. It is on Indian Canyon Drive. That's the side of the parking lot, but I believe
Or what is it? It's pronatalism or anti-natalism. So the anti-natalism alliance.
On the right side is Palm Canyon Drive. That's the road that takes you directly into downtown Palm Springs. And we see the remains of what looks like a truck. You can see the front axle there on the right, and it looks like a box truck back towards the left, unless that's a car that was planted up against the side of a dumpster or a truck. But there, it looks like the vehicle that was involved here, at least one of them, parked in the parking lot, hitting this fertility clinic, which again is right across the street from Desert Regional Medical Center.
So
right there.
They're anti-fertility. So
that's the thing, John.
Do you think they're like an incel?
So this is where people are talking. And again, it's been some hours since this story broke. Maybe there's been developments, but it's a fertility clinic. So I'm not even sure if this is a place where abortions are performed.
Well, isn't it like
maybe
something like a sperm bank or
it's IVF, yeah, in vitro fertility. Now I've read
they didn't know that's what fertility clinics are, and they actually thought that it was like the opposite, like an abortion clinic.
Yes.
That would be hilarious.
That is one of the other theories. The other theory is that, well, apparently some people with this pro-life mindset that leads them to blow up a building full of people that have decent lives. They say that in vitro fertility also, destroys a lot of cells and eggs and sperm, and there's lots of discarded fetuses in that whole procedure. So it's just as bad.
Yeah, I've been trying to get my boyfriend pregnant for years, and you don't see me committing atrocities over it.
Is this an atrocity? Sperm lives matter.
Over the doorway, American Reproductive Center, ARC. We have heard from those who are running this clinic who say all of the eggs, embryos, everything that the fertile storage that they have in their building was okay and saved. We do believe one person was killed in this, as we see some law enforcement tech going through that is just looks like a small vehicle, a car that they are now looking through to see exactly how this played out. We know the FBI is investigating this. The governor is aware of the situation happening in Palm Springs. He says his office.
You think it was ISIS?
Yeah.
No.
Office is monitoring the situation and will continue to. A law enforcement source telling ABC News they believe that the suspect in this case was killed.
Or was it the M17? I think it was them.
MS-13?
MS-13, okay. Well, the thing is, there probably is at M17 because there's a lot of gangs that that's how their title works. Some letter followed by some random number.
Hurt in this explosion, and they're across the street.
When I was in middle school, I knew a kid that wanted to join MS-13.
Damn, he had things figured out.
He really did.
Shattering windows at nearby businesses, and this is the hospital. This is Desert Region.
Just to add, by the way, he never did end up joining MS-13, and it seems like he actually has a pretty solid job and lives a pretty happy life. So I don't know, I don't know the story, but it seems like he got a pretty solid ending there.
You know what? What is it? The Yakuza? That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to go to or Yakuza. Yeah, I wanted to go to Japan, join that particular gang.
Yeah, see, that's exactly what it is.
They'd probably accept me.
Story patio.
I knew people like that too who would say that kind of shit. It's where people just say, "Oh, what's the most violent, dangerous gang?" Yeah, I want to be part of them because it's edgelord shit.
Those windows were shattered as well. People all around Palm Springs said they could feel the concussion, the wave. They could hear this blast.
I don't know.
In the ground.
Are the Somali pirates? Are they a gang? Maybe join them.
Maybe. Yeah.
That source
the Yakuza.
Active search right now to see if there are any other explosive devices planted around this scene or around the city of Palm Springs. Once that search is completed, investigators say then we will learn more about exactly what happened. Elena Gomez and Rob McMillan are both.
I'm sorry that all the gang titles aren't really solidified in my mind.
Yakuza, John. It's not a Yakuza is not a game, John. It's real life, John. Except there is a video game named Yakuza. But
let's begin with you. What do you see?
Well, we're here on Indian Canyon Way at the north end of the closure, and just a massive crime scene behind me. Nearly a mile of Indian Canyon Way blocked off as part of this crime scene. The blast obviously heard all throughout Palm Springs, but for people much closer to this fertility clinic where it happened, telling us they could feel the concussion of that blast. Now, the explosion was reported just before 11 o'clock this morning. ABC News confirming that at least 5 people are injured, and they believe the suspect in this.
Yeah, I will say I saw other videos of this where literally neighboring stores, like the liquor store, had all their windows blown out from the blast wave. Pretty crazy. What a loser channel. All these weirdos, no jobs, living in mom's basement playing video games. That's really funny.
Yeah, because 100% of people spending time on the internet are automatically unemployed and living in their parents' basements.
Dead. Now, a high-ranking law enforcement told me that this was definitely a deliberate act. An eyewitness telling our news desk that a car exploded.
I like how it's like they're watching a podcast, so they're spending their free time on the internet. But yet, I guess they must be some unemployed loser. But hey, if they see people actually producing a podcast, that must mean that they're just, have no life, living with their parents. Because that's not a sign of stupidity when they're not able to see the irony there.
It's
how
really
inconsistent their logic is.
It's really
disgusting. You're this off the internet.
It's really disgusting, John, how you spend all your free time sitting in your mom's basement while she brings you SpaghettiOs to make this shitty podcast happen, John.
It's almost like I don't know. You can look at my stream and see that, or my channel and see that I only stream once a week.
Exploded on the back of the business. Now, from what we've been able to
if you stream once a week on on the weekend and stuff, clearly that's a sign that you have too much free time.
From Air 7, it appears as though the car was probably right up to the back of that
at the end of the day, in the middle of the night when most people aren't working.
Fertility clinic, and then the blast, the force of the explosion pushing the car backwards, maybe 30-40 feet into a
Good night, young RJ. Thank you for the support of tonight's stream. You're a baller. You're a cool guy.
Now, you're in the live chat, young RJ, so therefore you have no life and you're living with your parents because that's how it works. 100% of people that you meet online that have different views than you automatically are losers that have no life. That's how it works. It's that simple.
And I love that too. Literally all we've done is comment on a blown up fucking fertility clinic, and this dude's like, "You guys really have no jobs, huh?
Yeah.
These guys don't pay a mortgage. Look at them. Look at them. They're not out here blowing up fertility clinics like a real American, like a real tax-paying
Minecraft."
Well, it's like we're just doing some news commentary, so it's just what makes you think that equates to us having no life outside the internet?
Yeah, we care about stupid shit that doesn't matter, like geopolitics and the news.
through the building, blowing part of that building out.
Oh, they're like getting a little defensive. I think a large amount of streamers would probably call out some asshole in the chat who's talking shit.
No, the truth is, John, the successful ones ignore them, but we just let. I like to be harassed and abused. I'm a masochist, so please talk.
Exactly.
Drew Bryant, PPP, fueled by Dino Nuggies.
The Regional Medical Center is right across the street, and several windows, dozens of windows, in fact, on the third floor were blown out by the blast. As you mentioned, Air 7 did see what appears to be a body in the street covered by a sheet. Now, we don't know whether that's the body of the suspect in this case or perhaps one of the innocent bystanders. I can say that the American Reproductive Center posted...
Don, you were accused of caring about furry porn.
What's that?
Zidane accused... Corn, yeah, they say it's corn nowadays, but yeah, furry corn. That sounds.
Has furry porn been mentioned tonight, like at all until now?
Now you care.
Yeah, just make random, baseless assumptions about strangers you don't know on the internet. That's a sign that you're a very well-educated person. Where if people are discussing politics, they have different views than you. Instead of actually, showing that you're educated and refuting their points, just make baseless assumptions about them. So clearly you're just some heroin addict that lives in a box. So, and clearly you torture kittens. I mean,
yeah, I
obviously
assume that
true.
person's a registered sex offender while we're at it.
Yeah. Clearly they've committed multiple, rapes and stuff, PDF file, take every negative characteristic and terrible thing that they could be associated with. And clearly that's all them.
We are continuing to follow breaking news for you out of Palm Springs, California. At least 5 people are injured. 1 person is dead after an explosion.
He hasn't talked, dog. Huh.
Near a fertility clinic there. Video obtained by ABC News shows the aftermath of broken glass and debris scattered in the street out in front of several businesses, including that fertility clinic. People reported feeling the force of that blast throughout the city. Several law enforcement agencies, including the FBI and ATF, are investigating. Palm Springs mayor telling the Los Angeles Times that he could, quote, confirm it was a bomb in or near a vehicle parked at the building. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi has been briefed on the situation, saying, quote, violence against a fertility clinic is unforgivable. For more, let's bring in Rob McMillan. He's a reporter at our Los Angeles station, KAB.
Okay. Next vid.
Researchers at the University of New Mexico are uncovering new evidence about the effects of microplastics, posing a possible connection with an increased risk of stroke. Look at this image here.
So people have started purchasing and drinking bottled water because of how piss poor public infrastructure is, and they keep finding contaminants in the water that over time definitely not good for you. And now we're finding out that it's pretty much I guess a catch-22. You either consume all the lead and I guess cholera or whatever. They've actually there's cases where they found disease and shit in the water, or I guess consume all the plastics, and they found that the average American now is estimated to have enough plastic particles in their body that if assembled or in total makes up the mass of a plastic spoon.
Hell yeah, dude. That's
the
tight.
study revealed microplastic.
What's that?
That's awesome. I think we need to get those numbers higher. I want to be able to make a whole Lego set with all the plastic in my body.
Yeah.
Then we can be recycled.
When people die and they donate their body to science, they can extract all the plastic. Give it back to society.
Microscopic plastic particles embedded in the plaque of arteries.
So the next generation can get filled with plastic. This is so good. I like the trajectory we're headed as a species.
Yeah, our society is so fantastic because we're all full of plastic.
These arteries are critical as they
90% plastic.
Carry blood from the body to the brain.
It can allow platelets and other debris to form on that plaque, which can then break free and travel up into the brain and cause a stroke.
The plaque from stroke survivors contain 51 times more microplastics compared to people with healthy arteries.
Oh my God, we're fucked. Everything's killing us. Packaged goods have all the fucking plastics in it. That's killing us. All our drinking water's killing us. All our breathing the inside air and stuff, all apparently really fucks you up and kills you. Too much sitting. Sitting's new cancer.
Dude, I knew I liked
it probably
you,
doesn't
dude,
help
Mondo.
that our health secretary literally has the tadpole from Baldur's Gate 3 and serves the absolute.
I don't know. I hear that he is very well educated and he's got a really extensive background when it comes to medicine.
I had a brainworm once, but it died of hunger.
You attend a major win in the fight against Alzheimer's disease. The FDA has cleared a blood test that's the first of its kind to detect the condition. Now, blood testing will likely be used to rule out Alzheimer's with positive results, signaling the need for more advanced diagnostics. Alzheimer's is characterized by changes in the brain, including a buildup of certain proteins that result in loss of neurons, responsible
And probably also the buildup of plastics.
for transmitting information. The diagnostic device will be used for clear early detection of those proteins associated with the disease.
Babe, because he was the baby of the
That's
family.
great.
When are they gonna reverse cognitive decline? Because you think once they're able to, I guess, stabilize the brain enough where they get rid of neural decay, then they could just do head transplants and shit.
I believe
and drastically prolong our lifespans.
I'm gonna need fact checking on this. In fact, I've already got Google pulled up, but I believe psilocybin mushrooms are one of the few things that we know neurogenesis can come of, where you generate new brain cells.
Neurogenesis can come from exercise.
Yeah, I'm sure, but
or orgasms.
So I think there's I think it actually literally regenerates brain cells, at a rate or at a scale that other things don't.
You're one of those people where marijuana's the end all be all cure to everything.
No. But psychedelic mushrooms now.
They cure everything.
Yeah.
So that's the new marijuana of have you tried?
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
So I
you
used
tried
to be,
CBD oil?
I used to be that way. I used to say, hey, if you anyone, I don't care who you are, anyone should try mushrooms. But the truth and the fact of the matter is that if you are predisposed to different genetic conditions like schizophrenia or other shit like that, fucking dormant psychological symptoms that don't occur until your late 20s or manifest usually till then. If you do take psychedelic drugs, you do increase the risk of those manifesting a little bit earlier. But if those things aren't dormant in your genes, then, well, that's not a risk for you. But just keep that in mind. Not all drugs are good. In fact, all drugs are bad.
Jolene.
Hell before you don't have a
Yes.
drug.
It's that. Well, what is a drug? Because you look up the definition. It's just something that has some kind of chemical effect or some kind of effect on the mind. So, and some of the definitions will specify that it's not a food, but when is some kind of, I guess, consumable chemical? When does a food become a non-food?
I do like Dude Mondo's take on this. Would you rather die at 26 in the medieval ages of quote-unquote natural causes, or live to be 86 and die of a microplastic stroke?
Well, actually, if prior to modern medicine, that's kind of a misconception that hey, the life expectancy was half of what it is today. So that meant everyone died when they were 20 or 30. In reality, the child mortality rate was really high. So you're likely to die before you made it. Yeah. But if you made it to pre-adolescence, you had a really, really good chance of making it until you were in your 50s or 60s.
Okay, fine. Would you rather die a 50-year-old medieval man or 86 with microplastic stroke?
86 microplastic stroke, because you get to watch lots of Netflix series before it happens.
Science wins.
Yeah. Youngest of 11 children. He was the 8th of his siblings to develop some sort of dementia.
I was about to basically make the exact same joke, Gene.
Yeah.
Disease progress.
It's much greater than just forgetting someone's name.
Non-TikTok internet for the win.
Forgetting who you are. It's the brain slowly dying and forgetting how to tell the rest of your body how to live.
DeBrango says she has a new sense of hope after hearing news that the first blood test used in diagnosing Alzheimer's disease has been cleared for use by the FDA.
It gives us hope as volunteers, as family members, as caregivers and care partners, and unfortunately, as people who may face the disease ourselves one day.
The Alzheimer's Association says for too long, people have struggled to get answers. So they're hoping the new blood test will make it easier to get an accurate diagnosis.
Well, we need to spend all our money on deporting all the illegals, because clearly that's more of a serious issue than people dying of all these notable chronic diseases.
Earlier.
Or reversing aging. But I guess if God wanted us to reverse aging, he would have allowed it to happen. God doesn't want us to live long.
I don't want to sidetrack things by going back to the immigration talk, but I just got a funny story relevant to that. So when I moved into this house that I live in currently, an old man across the street was our neighbor. He was a typical like Republican piece of shit, and he had a sign over his garage that said "Build the Wall." And he died last year, and now a new family is actually moving in, and it's a nice Hispanic family, right? They gave the house a new coat of paint. Did not take down that sign. I could tell from the look on Dirt's face, he was waiting for that punchline. And this is a true story, by the way, not a joke.
Wait. We got Kanano or whatever their name is in the chat. Dude looks like a prison wife. Ha 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 ha. Well, guess what? When it comes to I bet you're this off the internet, well, we know you're a fat fuck because you gave us your height and weight the other day. And you're technically obese.
Yeah, joke's on you. I'm looking for a prison wife. We know he's obese.
Dude. Kanado, we know he's like an obese fat fuck. And we also know he's retarded because he wasn't aware that he was obese based on those metrics. So we know that.
It's all muscle, John.
Oh, dude, I'm not fat. I'm big boned.
Muscle. The new test detects certain
muscle weighs more than fat.
All the mods in the chat make fun of this dude for being overweight and being too much of a dumb fuck to not know that he's overweight and being so fucking dumb that he gave us his weight and height. And it's like our stupid minds are full of pride, our intelligent minds are full of doubt. And I love how he posted, laugh out loud. I'm like 220 pounds and like 6 feet tall. It's like, wow, you just...
No, you just described a pretty slender BMI. 6 feet, 220. That's not too bad. 6 feet, 220.
That's like 40 pounds overweight.
You want to be 180 at 6 feet?
Yeah.
Then I'm monstrous, bro. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, then I'm fucking morbidly obese, John. I don't know what to tell you. Maybe I am.
Dude, it's funny, like, you have Blackish Cracker, where when you have these, like, retards in the chat that are on a live stream, and they discuss things, like, in voice chat, it's kind of funny how they're not able to hide their emotions. And even though you're much more chill than them, they're throwing tantrums and screaming. But when you're behind a text wall, you can use emojis and text abbreviations.
Yeah, that's usually why it's easy to tell that
Showing
those people are really angry.
Now he's changing it. Now he's 6'4".
In adult patients 55 years and older. It can be used as a...
But even if you're 6'4", that's still overweight. So you still reveal that you're a fat fuck.
Test detection tool to be followed by additional testing.
That ability to have a blood test and to be able to get on some of those medications sooner to slow the...
You're like, I am not overweight. So large shirt and it doesn't even fit me.
Brian, I don't know what you're saying. I believe it too, whether it was the story I told about my new neighbors or whether or not I'm looking for a prison wife, but thank you either way.
Well, okay, so I'll look at...
At least I'm willing to show myself on camera, unlike a lot of these people where, like, what do you think they look like?
Yeah, what kind of fucking loser doesn't show themselves on camera?
I'll hit it with the BMI calculator, okay? And I believe 6'4", 220 is a monster. I believe it, Shinano. Maybe you got a beer gut, maybe you don't.
Right here.
But all I'm saying is I Googled it, and look, I'm not telling you no better. I got a beer gut. I'm not going to whip it out and slap it for you. And
well, the thing is, most Americans are fat fucks, so it's kind of ironic.
But technically, yes, indeed, 6'4" and 220, according to the fucking American BMI calculator, is overweight. So slim it back, cut up. If you want, no, I'm just kidding. You could definitely make John your prison wife, I'm sure.
It all comes back to the prison wife economy.
Progression and give someone like me, if my husband one day develops it, to give us more time. If you told me I could have more time with him, 6 months, 9 months.
Where the fuck is Shad?
He'd still know me.
I'm actually starting to get a little concerned here. I'm going to shoot him a message.
He's okay.
I would take it in a heartbeat.
A promising new tool in the fight against a disease 7 million Americans are living with right now.
Tom Powell reporting there's still no standalone tests to diagnose Alzheimer's, including this newly approved blood test. Researchers say it could be a game changer because it is so simple and can help get patients a proper diagnosis much sooner.
Well, taking a look at what's trending, turns out you can indeed die from a broken heart. A new study in the Journal of the American Heart Association.
I believe it.
Men are actually
Well, isn't this like senior citizens, once their spouse dies, then their chance of passing away is pretty high, like, or their chance of passing away within a few months drastically skyrockets.
twice as likely to die from the stress-related heart condition known as broken heart syndrome compared to women. Now, the actual scientific name for this condition is Takotsubo cardiomyopathy, and it's associated with severe emotional distress or stressful events. The study analyzed nearly 200,000 adults who were hospitalized for suffering from broken heart syndrome between 2016 to 2020, and researchers found the death rate among women was actually 5.5% compared to 11.2% for men.
I'm wondering... darn.
Now, typical symptoms include shortness of breath, chest discomfort, heart palpitations, or irregular heartbeat. Interesting. Very interesting.
You ever had your heart broken, John?
Songs about it.
There are many.
You know, it's real. So.
We have an update on the story of entrepreneur Beth Beneke and her busy baby companies struggling with tariffs. As we now know, President Trump has cut the 145% tariffs on imports from China to 30% for the next 3 months. The drop may allow the Beneke organization to get her teething spoons and busy baby mats into the United States. It should also allow her to complete merchandise deals that she has with Target and Walmart. But she says it does not put her in the clear.
The administration puts on this 145% tax.
Nope, these tariffs, they're going to help the economy. Like they did during Trump's first term, when they did the exact opposite.
Brings it down to 30.
Did I send you the article about Trump saying that he was urging companies like Walmart to just eat the costs of the tariffs and not raise their prices?
It's almost like he just doesn't want to back down because he's a clinical narcissist, and narcissists would rather like die than admit that they're wrong. So it's almost like
you can always as a politician put out the I'm urging this press release, and then behind the scenes telling them, hey, I'm not actually worried about it, fuck them.
Because they did us this huge favor. It's like, no, 6 weeks ago I had 0.
What's that?
This is going to still cost.
Bill Hicks better not play the live video of China accusing Israel of war crimes at the International Court of Justice.
That's a juicy piece of business, Bill Hicks. Let me.
Well, China, they haven't engaged in any sort of direct military combat since Vietnam. They actually had a war with Vietnam after we withdrew because they didn't like the Khmer Rouge in Cambodia attack Vietnam, and then Vietnam sent their troops in to like fight away the Khmer Rouge and take control of Cambodia's capital. And China's like, hey, we call the shots here. We have an alliance with Pol Pot and his government there, so we're gonna send troops in. And unlike the United States that just stayed within like the southern borders and didn't want to attack like the northern Vietnamese directly, China went all out, and the Vietnamese government, when they were put into like a two-front battle, they were able to occupy Cambodia, and they were able to incapacitate their military, Pol Pot's military, while also fighting China back to their borders. So that's something people don't know, but that was the last time they saw ground combat, so I don't know about war crimes then, but the last major military dispute, like the Chinese Civil War, and then they went into Tibet and like East Turkestan and stuff, annexed all those areas. They did a lot of fucked up shit, killed a lot of people. So
cost me $48,000.
But that's the past. But even if they don't commit war crimes, why doesn't Xi Jinping call out North Korea for like all their human rights violations? Or they don't seem too concerned about, I don't know, taking Chinese civilians that criticize the government and killing them in firing squads, or also in East Turkestan, the Uyghur population, putting them in like World War II style concentration camps.
Beneke is also hoping a bill to exempt small businesses from tariffs costs will be passed for long-term relief.
It's great that we can stay in business for 3 more months. It gives us more time.
What are you laughing at?
There's a lot of product on the ground in China.
Yeah, the rind of Zao Dadong comment.
No, I did too. It was the Mattel comment for me, and then just Bill Hicks being like, "Yeah, Brian." Yeah. I don't know. You guys are great.
before the 145% tariff was introduced. Every conversation I have in business is about what's next. Business.
Next video.
Next. What about this?
You really seem to
look at
dislike
this,
Muslims, Hano.
What's that?
video?
I was talking to somebody in the chat.
It's not just about tradition.
The style that I'm doing it in is called Gongfu Cha, which is a Chinese style tea service.
But the entire community built around tea.
It holds really special space. It creates what's called a third space.
After 11.
Okay, so do you think they're following all the protocols when it comes to their eating establishment? So if they're not, they probably work for some gang and they don't look white. So do you think maybe ICE should get involved and investigate?
11 long months of work. Owner Sohan Fan says they're finally ready to open their new location on East 7th Street downtown.
We're so excited. I can't overstate how pivotal this particular moment is.
It's been a difficult year.
Having to tread water while we get the place open has impacted us a lot.
First, they were forced to leave their original location off I-35 due to the highway
Now look,
expansion.
We were in our old spot.
Say this. Bill Hicks, the live video that you sent has been live since May 14th. Now, like what dumb fuck blackish cracker they spoke to last time said, it takes 6 months for the media to catch up with actual news. You know what I'm saying? So in 6 months we'll cover that on the PPP when that's actually news. But right now,
yeah,
that's
6 months when Trubisky gets back.
For about
Shab hasn't touched grass for a while, so he spends time on the internet, therefore he has no life and he lives with his parents, so probably doesn't know how to cope in the outside world, so he probably got lost, wandered off, doesn't know how to find his way home.
7 years.
Then came a trade war with China.
Our tea is all from China, and the teaware that we sell is mostly from China.
In the face of a 145% tariff, Fan announced a 30% discount on tea in protest.
If we just go along with what's happening as victims and we pass the cost along to the consumer, then eventually, quickly, tea becomes something that only wealthy people can afford.
The day after his pledge, the U.S. and China announced a 90-day pause, with the U.S. reducing its tariffs to 30% for now.
The purpose...
Dude, this tea prices are going up. Jesus, no taxation without any representation. Fuck you, Trump.
Dump all that
Poor
shit.
people don't have much representation. It's all the fucking corporations and the lobbyists.
You think you need that tea? Dump
really?
all that shit in the harbor. Fuck your business.
Yeah.
Dude.
Was to encourage
dump all the MAGA hats in the harbor.
People to get to the negotiation table.
Nathan Fort with Vital Retirement Planner says the pause has brought confidence to the market at a volatile time.
Every country benefits when consumers are optimistic. And consumers are optimistic when there's a trade deal in place.
He says the best thing businesses and those looking to retire soon can do is use the pause as a time to develop a financial plan.
And have a strategy and let the strategy, your overall plan, drive your financial decisions and your investment decisions.
Fawn doesn't know if a more permanent deal will come within these 90 days, but he says it doesn't matter.
It's going to blow over. And if it doesn't, well, we're just going to keep our prices affordable.
With his tea house reopening Friday, he's much more concerned with what's right in front of him.
People want human connection more than anything else, and this is a place that they can find it.
Reporting in Austin, Andrew Freeman, CBS Austin News.
Thank you for watching. Please hit...
No, fuck you.
The Department of Homeland Security says it's in the very beginning stages of the vetting process for a reported immigrant reality TV show. Wall Street Journal reports it's a reality...
Wait, are they going to do like a cops sort of show, but instead it's ICE? They're following them around as they raid homes?
Dude, I showed you that clip with Dr. Phil rolling around with the ICE crew, right?
Yeah.
Dr. Phil did ICE.
Dude, Dr. Phil's
Go ahead. Go ahead.
To prove they are the most American. The DHS Assistant Secretary says Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem has not backed or even reviewed the pitch of any scripted or reality show. The agency did not immediately provide any more.
Damn, Gene, you're feisty. Dump all those MAGA's hats in the harbor.
MAGA hats.
About that potential show.
Wow.
The United States and China.
You're a little on the nose with it, John, huh?
By agreeing to dramatically slash the tariffs they imposed on each other's goods. The development follows a successful round of talks in Switzerland at the weekend. Previously, the White House issued blanket levies on all Chinese imports into the US of 145%, with a variety of additional tariffs on specific goods. Retaliation from Beijing took their tariff rate on imports from America up to 125%. And in today's breakthrough, both sides agreed to lower levies by 115% for a 90-day period as negotiations continue. US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said both sides...
So, why do you think Trump's starting to back down from these 10,000% tariffs?
Because they're not fucking good for the economy.
Because they did their job. Deals are in place. You'll see. It takes time. Rome wasn't built in a day. You can't heal an economy overnight. But the The tariffs did
Rome
their
wasn't
job,
built
and
in a
you'll
day,
see.
but this 9 mil
Well,
certainly was.
He's going to bring jobs back to America, an industry back to America. And then when our economy crashes and we probably have one of the worst recessions, depressions that we've ever had, and it takes us like over half a decade to get out of it, once we recover, that's all Trump.
Sides saw the need for trade between the two powers to continue.
The consensus from both delegations this weekend is neither side wants a decoupling. And what had occurred with these very high tariffs, as Ambassador Greer said, was the equivalent of an embargo. And neither side wants that. We do want trade. We want more balanced trade. And I think that both sides are committed to achieving that.
Our China correspondent Laura Bicker is in Beijing. Our economics editor Faisal Islam is here in London. They join me, and I started by saying to Laura, there wasn't that much expectation around these talks that took place.
Here, talk to
This morning,
Chad.
there is a 90-day pause on most of the United
I
States.
don't think I do
and
that
tariffs.
good of a
Starts today,
Trump
May 9th.
impression.
President
Paradox.
What's that?
Paradox thinks I do a good Trump impression, a decent. I don't believe so. That's
The best Trump impression ever.
highly regarded.
Trump's wrapping up his trip.
I'm
to Saudi
already
Arabia and
depressed
heading
with
to
all
the-
these high prices.
Okay, so Trump is obsessed with like William McKinley. He's talking about how William McKinley's one of the most underrated presidents because that dude really like exercised all the tariffs, and that's a president from like the 19th century. But at least I think he is. I believe he's a pre like Theodore Roosevelt president. But here it says that his like tariffs were 38%, 49%. So this is where Trump clearly doesn't know what he's doing, because it's just it's like kids where I don't know, you're trying to establish something, it's just to the extreme. 300%. They just don't have any sort of grasp on I guess the gradient that you should use, or I guess which parameters you should stick to. So it seems like what he's doing is, I don't know, a bit excessive.
And the visit, as Naomi Ruckam shows us, comes as the president continues to push back on bipartisan criticism.
Chad
Decision to accept an
blacked out.
expensive plane from the Qatar government.
This morning, President Donald Trump heads to Qatar for the second leg of his Middle East trip, amid criticism over plans to accept a luxury jet from the...
Where's Qatar?
Qatar?
Yeah.
I thought it was Qatar.
Yeah.
Is it not in the Middle East?
Yep. Where in the Middle East?
I don't know. Does it border India?
No.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Does it border?
It's one of the Arab states.
Yeah.
It's
So
it's within Saudi Arabia, basically. It like sticks out.
Yeah, it's like
It's
a small. It's,
little-
like the UAE.
It's a little peninsula in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, it's a peninsula within a peninsula.
I know a Marine who is in Bahrain right now, actually, like right next to Qatar.
Night on Fox News.
With the United States of America, I believe that we should have the most impressive plane.
The president wrapped up his visit to Saudi Arabia today, joining officials from 6 Gulf nations.
The Gulf nations are at the forefront of creating a stable, peaceful, and prosperous Middle East.
The White House says the president secured $600 billion.
Now, I believe that Qatar, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, they all get along fairly well. It's Yemen that's the Gulf state where they just have been holding it under some Israeli-style, like, or Gaza-style siege, where they pretty much cut it off from any sort of trade and so forth, and they've been starving out the population and shelling the hell out of it. Supported by America.
Saudi investments following a day of meetings with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman.
We give them a lot of military support as well, like Israel, because we really help, or we really like when other military powers just turn enclaves into giant prison camps and death camps.
At an investment forum, President...
Oh, look who's back. Where the fuck were you, Shab?
My girlfriend made us food and she wanted me to eat with her.
Aww.
It's okay. You're
fired.
President Trump announced that he's lifting all sanctions on Syria.
You're fine.
Yeah.
As the country is now...
You're only down one. You're only down one retard.
Yeah.
Exactly.
pay reduction
for dictator Bashar al-Assad last year.
The sanctions were brutal and crippling. Now it's their time to shine.
He also issued this ultimatum to Iran over its nuclear program.
If I can make a deal with Iran, I'll be very happy. If Iran's leading.
I don't think so. I'm going to tariff your pay.
Rejects this
tariff and sanctions.
Tariffs, to attack our neighbors, then we will have
You're
no
gonna
choice
charge
but to
me
inflict
for it.
Massive.
Exactly.
Sure, I'll
While
pay you,
overseas,
but
the
you need to
president
send
also
me
focused on issues
$12
back
in
home. On
tariffs,
social media,
please.
he pressed Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell to lower interest rates, as the White House touted yesterday's.
So, Merkur, or I hope I didn't mispronounce your name. You said, "Don't make me change my mind." Did I say something you disagree with?
Consumer Price Index report showing that inflation rose 2.3%.
I want to hear your opinion on whatever it is, because I do like, if you don't agree with us, don't mind if you share your opposing views.
In April,
Or don't be
down
afraid to.
0.1% from March. Naomi Ruckham, CBS News.
Okay, more now on the trade tensions, and the companies in the US are rushing to get shipments from China as a 90-day pause in the trade war between the world's two largest economies has come into effect, an agreement Donald Trump has referred to as a total reset in relations. Laura Bicker has been to southern China, where shipments to ports in the US had all but come to a standstill.
The race is on. Factory workers in China are trying to make up for lost time and lost trade.
Now, one thing that is kind of fucked up is a lot of the factory workers are kind of doing like slave labor. Like there are American and it's not just American owned like factories for American corporations. You do see it with like other companies or other countries as well, even Chinese corporations, but they will have nets installed to like stop their employees from killing themselves.
This sofa company is keen to finally get shipments on the move in case Mr. Trump changes his mind about lowering tariffs.
Our factory stopped.
I mean, if Trump was more woke and altruistic, maybe you should do that. Like, if you don't create better standards for like your factory workers, we're going to give you tariffs. So no tariffs if you cut back on your, I guess, piss poor working conditions.
Yeah, start paying your workers better.
Yeah. America, we know how to pay people livable wages.
Well,
maybe not. Maybe we need some tariffs.
Even though we
maybe people should sanction us because we don't really like livable wages in America either.
Yeah, but isn't it even worse there? When it comes to that, isn't that why there's so much people
and it shows
offing themselves?
Well, it shows just how fucked up the world is. The fact that, look at how bad it is in America, and then much of the world's even worse. So, God, human beings, we don't really treat our fellow humans right.
Our main market is the United States. Once the tariffs exceeded 50%, we had already come to a standstill. 145% was just not possible.
Goods have been piling up here since April. Now, surprisingly, the two superpowers have managed to do a deal. Many observers have focused on the question who blinked first, Donald Trump or President Xi. Beijing believes its defiance brought the Americans
Did she say Xi? I think it's Xi Jinping.
to the table. Its refusal to give in, but it has come at a cost. US companies are scrambling to get their shipments out of Chinese ports, which could take weeks. And the lower import taxes will only last for 90 days. No one is sure what happens next. These air fryers were designed for the US market. They were in development.
Now, it would be funny if they're claiming that there's a pause for 90 days, but then at the end of the 90 days, they cut it down even more and do another pause, and then they hope that maybe they find other like fucking like more egregious policies to act as a red herring, and then everyone stops talking about the tariffs. And maybe Trump will do that to kind of tap dance around acknowledging that he had to back down from the tariffs, because everyone around him is like, you need to stop. The world economy is going to crash.
Until the tariffs hit.
It felt like my parents were getting a divorce. China and the US are the most important economic and cultural powers in the world.
Yeah, unspecified or dolls in the chat says South Korea got the highest suicide rate in the world. Yep, and I think that's more of like a cultural thing, like in the United States, where suicide rates are going up in the US because we had this sort of, if you're not a homeowner with a big McMansion, multiple cars, and a very large salary, by the time you're in your 30s, then you're a failure. So South Korea does kind of have that kind of a similar sort of culture, but it's kind of even worse. So there's this famous bridge in South Korea that people jump off of, and they redesigned the bridge with all these like lights with like reassuring messages, and they put all these phones with suicide hotlines on the bridge.
Don't give up.
They have that in Portland because I've walked across the Burnside Bridge in Portland a couple of times, and both sides do have a lot of those signs with the suicide hotline number or the. I am so sorry. I said the actual thing, but you know, with those hotline numbers on it.
$10 money for Dirk Nowitzki, none for Gene. Why don't people want to give me any money?
Thank you, Bryant. Yeah, that would be awesome if we could hit the goal.
Yeah, just for that comment, Bryant, I'm going to take all the money, not distribute it.
Lead to a world that we cannot imagine. Tariffs as high.
I was planning on like giving them like $10, maybe. I don't know, maximizing it, but now because of that comment, yeah. I'm just going to take all the money now.
As 145% would mean we have to say goodbye to one another.
But like the workers who build kettles and toasters for US homes learn dance moves in the park.
Brian. I don't know. They seem very happy.
If talks with the US don't go well.
The new U.S.-China tariff agreement is now in effect. Chinese imports into the U.S. now face a 30% tariff, down from 145%. And China has reduced its 125% tariff on American goods to 10%. Earlier this month, before U.S. and Chinese officials hammered out this 90-day reduction, I spoke with Eleanor Mack, the CEO and founder of the Jilly Bing doll, about how her company was going to manage.
I have made the tough call to pause our manufacturing. The 100% plus increase in our costs is just not something we can.
They're mentioning like toy making and stuff. Kids don't play with toys anymore. What are they talking about?
Make happen, make continue to survive on. And, for me as a founder.
Yeah, who needs toys when you can just give your toddlers an iPad?
Well, yeah, and like, didn't you hear Trump say, like, now the kids don't need, like, however many dolls? Now they'll just have 1 to 2 dolls, not 30 dolls.
Now, what do you think of parents that actually allow their, like, toddlers who can't even form complete sentences, who aren't even, like, toilet trained, they allow them to use like smartphones and tablets?
Yeah, here, watch Coco Melon and get off my back for a minute.
Yeah, but it's weird. You'll see them on them. They're just like browsing it like anyone else, and yet, like it's like I said prior. But apparently, that really fucks with the kids' attention span and stuff. People are talking about how like Gen Alpha, they can't even watch a 3-minute, 5-minute video without like losing focus. So, and so many parents like insist like, yeah, fuck this, I'm still gonna do it. I don't know. I don't have kids, so I don't know how hard it is to resist the urge to just put a screen in front of them and shut them up. Maybe kids are pretty annoying. I hear they're a lot of work.
Too, and I can't put, our mission and our future on this type of uncertainty.
Eleanor Mack joins us again now. Eleanor,
there are even people that have like pet monkeys. And you'll see the monkeys like just laying down.
It's basically like having kids, am I right?
Yeah, but they'll look at the tablet and stuff, and you see the monkeys just casually, like, using the tablet.
See you again. We just heard you discuss your decision to pause manufacturing of your Jilly Bing doll. That was less than 2 weeks ago. Has this new tariff agreement changed your mind about that?
Well, I am reevaluating. So, a 30% tariff is, a lot less.
Dude, somebody's like cis parents. Am I right? We're not even talking about that at all.
This Hano person seems a bit on the hateful side in general from their messages tonight.
Yeah, I like how like that's constantly on your mind, and when you have the criticism of the right where they think about it more than anybody else, it's like we're talking about giving kids or using or provide kids with an excessive amount of screen time, and you turn that into some like discussion about, I guess, like same-sex marriage and shit.
Painful to 145%, but even at 30%, it's still a nightmare. We were at 0% for the last, for dolls for the last few years, and so when you look at a $68 doll like mine.
To be fair, do you think maybe we should deport these dolls because they don't look like they're white?
That's true.
That is what matters.
That's 10 to 15.
We don't. Dude, next they're gonna have like a black Barbie or something.
$15, and just tariffs alone, right? Not looking at additional costs that we'll have to pay to rush, testing, rush shipping. So, we're evaluating, but really the other piece is just that the uncertainty that sits on this right now. So the cost of tariffs are assessed when our goods enter the US market. And for us, and probably many companies like us, that's probably past 90 days. So we don't know what things will look like by the time our goods enter the market.
So even if you put in an order today, hoping to get in under this 30% tariff rate, there's no guarantee that that shipment is going to arrive and still lock you in those 90 days.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You could arrive at 91 days, and who knows where tariffs will be. So
I don't know. I don't see how a kid can enjoy these toys and relate to them based on, I don't know, them looking so foreign.
Like playing musical chairs, right? You kind of place your order now and you wait, and when it arrives, you hope that the tariff policy has either stayed the same or it's, decreased in your favor, but you just don't know.
And on LinkedIn.
Next vid.
The pause is set to begin on Wednesday, setting up a 90-day negotiating period between the two.
Okay, I guess we discussed the tariffs enough.
Now to a medical breakthrough that saved a baby and could help heal so many other people.
A child with a rare genetic disorder.
Okay, so here they go, encouraging eugenics with using genetic engineering to cure disease. You know who supported eugenics? Hitler. And you know what? Clearly, there's no nuance, and using gene editing to cure disease, it's the exact same thing as gathering up people who have a certain appearance and putting them in gas chambers. Clearly, they're the exact same thing.
Treated with a new gene editing therapy. Here's ABC's Rhiannon Alley.
A pioneering gene editing therapy has given 9-month-old KJ Muldoon a new chance at life, and it could change
He looks happy.
the future of medicine.
It's all been a miracle, and that's the only way to describe it.
KJ was born with a rare disorder that causes dangerous levels of ammonia to build up in the blood, causing brain damage or even death.
Unfortunately, about 50% of babies pass away from this disease in the first week of life.
Instead of a high-risk traditional treatment, doctors at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia tried something never done before: customized gene editing. KJ's disease was caused
Dude, look at them playing with fucking nature.
by a single genetic mistake, one letter in his DNA out of place.
They're interfering with God's grand plan.
God's gonna be
I mean, next they're gonna use genetic engineering to make it so people aren't born with wisdom teeth and shit.
Doctors had to find a way to fix that error without affecting the rest of his genome.
He has one particular misspelling in one particular place, one letter that's unique to him.
After 6 months of developing the treatment, doctors gave KJ his first infusion in February.
By the next day, he was up laughing, looking around, seeing what was going on. Very nosy, wanting to know what was going on, playing with his toys like nothing ever happened.
KJ is now gaining weight and hitting developmental milestones, but doctors warn it's still too early to know the full impact.
There's some early signs of benefit. I think we need more time to fully understand those signs.
If successful, this could open the door for treating other genetic diseases, including cystic fibrosis.
I don't know. That baby was like smiling. Isn't it like babies don't really start to smile until they're like a month or 2 months old or something? Maybe they
It's a
genetically.
goddamn Democrat, baby.
I don't know. They genetically engineered this kid to like
This
smile.
baby's too happy. This is a problem.
Yeah.
And so this is just a first step down a path that I hope will be very long and help many of our patients, where we can really target the underlying cause of their individual diagnosis.
Rhiannon Alley, ABC News, New York.
Top of your health news, a baby named KJ born with a rare genetic disorder is the first person in the world to be successfully treated with a tailor-made gene therapy. The baby's family is speaking with CBS.
Okay, so Bill Hicks, do you not understand that when you say stuff like that in the chat and you're a mod, it's one thing if we have other people that come in and want to say crap like that, but when you're doing it, it's kind of, I don't know, not making us look good.
News in their first TV interview about their 9.5-month-long journey towards KJ's recovery. Dr. John LaPook has their story.
Soon after.
Next vid.
Tonight at Phelps High School in D.C.,
Make sure you hold it with 2 hands.
students are drilling,
Go slow.
sign, and
Look, they're not teaching every single kid trig and going out of their way to teach like every other kid like physics and stuff. And it's not like it's just not working and the overwhelming majority of kids leave school not even knowing how to do basic math, but yet they keep trying to force kids to learn trig and calculus and like chemistry and so forth. Maybe they should kind of separate the kids that show that they perform well in those areas, the ones that actually have some kind of aspiration when it comes to those topics. And maybe since the overwhelming majority of people aren't going to use that stuff when they get older, maybe once you make sure that they have like basic literacy and I guess mathematic like literacy as well, once they have all that down, maybe once they get into high school, if they're not interested and the kind of shit that unless you want to be like, I don't know, a doctor or a physicist or something, maybe just let them, or maybe teach them a trade. Maybe that will benefit the economy more.
Wiring their way to a brighter future.
I love pushing myself.
And then pressure drill through here.
Classes that years ago were pushed to the side in favor of coursework prioritizing test scores in STEM, now seen as a huge opportunity.
Do you want to be an electrician?
Of course. Once I graduate, I want to kind of break off and have my own business.
Just move your straight edge.
At Phelps, they're making that dream.
Eden Sir says, I don't believe in literacy.
Reality. Students learn critical traits.
What do you have against literacy?
Hands-on, building sheds for the community, testing HVAC systems, even architecture.
Is interest growing?
Yes, it is. In a trade vocational class, you are paid to learn. On top of that, they're learning that skill versus paying a tuition to college at $60,000 when you tighten your screw.
Andre Green teaches electrical engineering.
You've been doing this for 8 years.
Yes.
What's happened to your students?
They're happy. I'll get that phone call from them saying basically like, I'm making some money.
Here in Washington, D.C., the number of students who've enrolled in this type of program has nearly doubled in the last decade. Public school system has invested millions this year alone.
And similar programs are pumping up in districts nationwide. According to one survey, 66%.
Dude, okay, I think they're wasting all this money teaching kids trades because this is money that could be going to ICE and going to our other agencies like the ATF and stuff that are now being like deployed or tasked with assisting ICE. It could be going to them deporting everybody.
Of all high schools now
Still wasted it.
And
Dude, see, they're wasting our taxpayer money on all this stupid education.
being driven by economic demand.
So I have construction companies and I have other employers coming to me wanting students right out of high school to be career ready.
It's potentially transformative for these kids.
It's amazing. I mean, you're talking about breaking generational poverty.
For these kids, shop class no longer carries the stigma of generations past.
I feel if other youth got the chance to do this, they would love it because you're just so free and you get to learn.
Aaron McLaughlin, NBC News, Washington.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories.
Amazon's new robot, Vulcan, doesn't look like a person or move like one.
This is the robotic ripper. This is the...
And see, the robots are fucking coming. So, do you think we're really stabilizing the economy so we can keep things afloat during the great unemployment transition?
And these are paddles that can squeeze the item.
But it's doing a job that until now only people at Amazon could do.
Is that what we're going to call the new Great Depression?
What's that?
Is that what we're going to call the new Great Depression?
I don't know. Well, the thing is, society's going to have to transition. So, like, for the longest time, like, this kind of conventional capitalism of, hey, you learn a trade or you graduate in some field of, like work and so forth, and then that you pursue that and make a living and pay taxes. If robots and software can pretty much do all the work needed, then will human labor be necessary? Will a workforce even be necessary? So at that point, if robots can just like seamlessly gather what's needed and I guess 3D print houses and shit for everybody, at that point, it's like that would actually make socialism actually like feasible or attainable.
Hands are one of those most amazing...
Robots are cream pieing now. What jobs don't they steal?
Exactly. See, we gotta deport all the robots, not all the immigrants.
And it's that physical intelligence, that physical AI that we're trying to give to the Vulcan robots.
While other robots rely on cameras, Vulcan is Amazon's first robot that's able to feel the items it touches, meaning it can handle way more items than past robots.
God, we're starting to feel.
Choosing and placing them accurately.
So on a single shelf, you might be able to create a certain size space, maybe for a dog toy, but not for a basketball. The
robots are going to feel you out, and then they're going to do bad things to you.
Assessment.
So as Amazon empowers some of its 750,000 plus robots with more and more skills like ours, is Vulcan the robot that could finally eliminate the need for Amazon's human workforce?
There may be a reduction in workforce, but no, the workers will still be needed and the workers will be more efficient.
We went to Spokane, Washington to get the world's first look at Vulcan, fully in use on the warehouse floor, and ask its lead creator exactly how it works, why it's a game changer, and what's stopping robots from replacing all the people at Amazon warehouses like this one.
Dude, it's a slow night with the views.
So the warehouse
we got to show more boob.
Square feet. It has 2,500 full and part-time employees.
Those employees are handling 3.5 million items every week here, with a lot of help from thousands of robots. Amazon said
that.
Have you ever seen places where they have like machines that take care of and serve you, like make coffee and stuff like that? You just tell it what to do.
Yep.
I think me and you need to come out with a restaurant called Build-A-Burger, where it's a machine that builds burgers and you tell it what
We probably already have that.
No, we're gonna be millionaires, Gene. Don't tell anybody.
They
about
have
my
these
idea.
sort of like spatula robots and so forth and everything called, I think it's actually just called Flippy.
No, Build-A-Burger.
And,
Says globally, robots help
like Build-A-Bear, but it's a burger. You get to take it home with you.
5% of all orders.
Amazon is one of the most advanced.
And you can name it.
Robot warehouses are an astonishing thing.
There's some 5,000 robotic drive units here, ferrying packages around and tall yellow bins filled with items.
Instead of a human being going to get product from the shelf comes to the human being.
Except for some drive units, most of Amazon's robots, including
Dude, watch the robots become self-aware. And, like, these little, like, Roomba, like, cargo transport robots, they break out of the factory, and they start going into buildings and just ravaging them. Like, ramming into people.
Operate behind a fence.
To make sure that everyone around them is safe.
Robotic arms like Cardinal, Robin, and the newer Sparrow have been moving items and packages around in Amazon warehouses since 2021. But those primarily rely on cameras for detection and suction for grasp.
So we give the robot essentially.
So what do you think of the logic where you see this gradual improvement in terms of the performance of the robots, and then people will make the argument of, look, this thing that they weren't able to do before, they're able to do now, but there's still certain things they can't do. So, see, they're worthless. They're never going to advance to the point where they can completely replace humans. Don't you think that's kind of a sign that a person isn't that bright?
Okay,
But they can't... Yeah. What's that?
I'm sorry, I didn't pay attention to what you were responding to. I hope it's not the same thing I'm about to read. But Mark in the chat said, yeah, workers will always be needed. That's dumb. And it's okay. Everything will be fine. We can do more better things in medical science and everything else.
More better
what
things.
you're saying is true to an extent, a very small extent. Because there's always going to be a repairman needed.
No, Shab, because robots can repair
Well,
the
there
robots.
has to be technicians, at least like there's got to be still technicians in some sort of way, shape, or form they're involved. And
So what happens when you get to the point when the robots can do the job of the
if
technicians?
we're talking about that, that's like.
But the point is, well, that's probably not as far
anything
off
near
as you
what we're
think it
talking
is.
about. Maybe it is. Maybe that's hundreds to thousands. I don't
Not
know.
hundreds, probably a few generations from now.
I don't know about all that. But for the
Do you know what exponential?
Well, we're not
growth
talking
is?
about 50
Hold
years
up.
from now. Okay, we're talking about soon. What, Dirt?
Well, 50
This is
years
beautiful.
is soon.
Back to back in the chat, we have no, they won't completely replace humans. And then immediately after, we have, I've never once in my life heard someone say we won't be replaced by robots. That's just fucking.
Well, then it
There you
shows
go.
that.
There you go. Now you have. It's out there.
Yeah, it's like there's like, okay, so maybe theoretically, like Gene, like what he's saying, like way down the road, like a lot longer from now, the stuff will be worked out, and maybe they won't even need humans in the whole thing. But in the next couple decades or whatever, at the very least, there's going to be a need for technicians, but there you only need one technician for 40 units.
It's
or
supply
something
and
like
demand,
that.
so
Yeah.
it's just, well, probably not even for like 40 units, so it's just,
100
when it comes to,
you know, they
well, the
just
thing is not everyone can
maintain
be a
them.
technician, and when we're talking about hundreds of millions of people, and if that's the only job available, and eventually that will be replaced, so this person that says, I've never heard of anybody saying that, well, you clearly aren't really that well read, and you don't really spend a lot of time actually paying attention to this particular like field of I guess science.
Yeah, but again, like when there's all these machines built to make the food, it's going to be like 50 or 100 cooks replaced with one technician that has to maintain these machines and make sure they're functioning correctly. That's I don't know if you.
I don't think
did it.
you understand how, like, when you're talking about somebody making sure the robots function properly, I don't think you understand that robots can easily be programmed to do something like that.
Well, yeah. Well, then they need to maintain it.
You'll
They need
have
to fix it
maintenance
when
spots.
there's an issue and stuff like. Okay,
but the problem is that will
we're
be a
not
job
talking
that
about the idea of like way down in the future, where
50, 60 years is not way down in the future.
We're not talking. Yeah, well, it's far enough. What we're talking about is more something that would affect our lifetime more. Like 50 years down the line, we're all gonna be dead, especially me. Okay, not our lifetime.
Well, whatever. So the point is that this person clearly doesn't understand the concept of linear time, how, tech can actually advance and improve. So they're like they would be one of those people where it's like a horseless carriage. Yeah, okay. That will never work.
Of touch using a sensor that measures force in all 3 directions.
They're like one of those people where, like, when you talk about streaming replacing television, there are so many adults, like, when I was in high school and I was talking about that, they're like, no, not going to happen. See, internet can only exist with a computer. You have to be in front of a desktop and a monitor screen. Like, internet being wireless and you can connect it to your TV and stuff?
It's like,
how could that happen?
It's like
I can't see that happening within the span of several years.
It's like computers will never replace jobs, but it's like we've been watching it happen. Like there's so many different machines and things like that you can go up to and just give it some money and it'll make you a coffee, or it'll spit out some candy or a drink or something like that. Before that existed, there had to be people to sell those things that replace people's jobs. I don't know. It's just such a retarded thing that we have to explain that to the person in the chat. They just now are figuring out the world around them.
Developing robotics for space at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory before joining Amazon.
But I just don't get it with people where you talk about advancement technology and they just can't process it. And then they'll look at examples of it not being perfect. And it's like, see, they'll never get to the point where they perfect this technology because it can't do absolutely everything it could do. Therefore, it will never be able to function ideally. And again, it's like they're too dumb to see just how much technology can progress within the span of a decade. They lack any sort of, I guess, reflection or any sort of like metacognition, being able to pan out of the present and consider like, hey, this is how much things are able to change within this amount of time. So maybe when more time goes by, because things are changing relative to the past, then in the future, maybe things will be more advanced. But I guess that's too complicated for him.
2019. Now he leads the team that developed.
My favorite one is when somebody assumes that their inability to understand the technology definitely validates their assumptions about it.
Yeah. The Dunning-Kruger effect. The less they know about how much they don't know.
There was a recent PhD graduate who was trying to get the robot to stow items into the...
And they say if these kids, again, I'm like 29, I'm almost 30, so maybe it's just a lot of the people on the right. Maybe they just assume that everyone is supposed to look like them, where they're like a wrinkly hag who has a big beer gut and they're the typical like fat MAGA tard. Maybe they shouldn't assume that because somebody actually takes care of themselves and doesn't look as like withered as they do by the time that they're like 26. Maybe they shouldn't assume that the person's just like 19.
The fabric pods. My first impression was,
I think it's
naive.
weird to
The real
call
world
me
is-
a kid, unless like you're like in your 60s or 70s or something. That makes more sense, I guess, to look at me as a kid. But if you're in
That's how you know that you're an alpha.
Aren't you
when you look
literally
like
the
your
oldest
generic-
one here, Shab?
I'd imagine, because I get it. I assume you're younger than me then by you saying that.
Yeah, I'm almost
fuck.
31.
Okay, then I must be the oldest one. I'm an old fuck. But
You old bastard.
But it's like most of the people that would come through and call us kids in the chat are people that are probably in their 30s or 40s, and it's like, well, if you only have 5 or 10 years on me, you're not really like not a kid, and I am a kid. That's like really stupid. 5 or 10 years is not that much. 5 or 10 years goes by pretty quick.
Well, plus I would tell somebody younger than me that, like, you know, my age doesn't validate any of my arguments over theirs. So what's it matter if you're older and you get argued into a corner by somebody who's a decade younger than you? Then by that logic, shouldn't that be even more embarrassing?
And plus, it's also just, again, the same way they can't process linear time and how the way things are in the present may not be how things are in the future or the near future. They're too dumb to process the appeal to age fallacy of a person can be more knowledgeable on a subject even if they're younger. And a person can be really fucking stupid even though they're older. But oh my god, critical thinking? Things being multifaceted? Oh god, that just goes over their head.
Is going to teach this new grad that robots can't do these things.
Then the team came up with the gripper with a special sensor and some key movement capabilities.
Like sweeping the items to one side. And I had this pivot from, this is never going to work, to, oh my gosh, this is the future.
The final result, Vulcan, is a 3-part system. An employee puts an item from these yellow bins onto a conveyor where it's picked up by the first part, a moving robotic structure called a gantry.
Which is a robot that moves horizontally and vertically. We'll take that bag of Skittles and put it into our buffer wall. It waits there until the robot makes a match. So the robot brain is looking for an opportunity where it can create enough space to put that bag of Skittles.
Next, it's picked up by this robotic round foam disc.
We affectionately call that the squash turner. So it reorients the item, kind of like it sounds. Things like books where you want the titles facing out, or things where you need to align it so that it'll fit in the space.
Finally, the item is picked up by the gripper.
It has conveyor belts built in, and so the item feeds forward and backward. So the gripper has a sense of force on its grasp axis as well.
Okay, next vid.
We are following breaking news right here at 4:30. The U.S. Supreme Court keeping a lower court order in place, blocking immediate deportations of Venezuelans under an 18th century wartime law. The order requires the government give them the opportunity to fight the deportations. The suit was filed after a plane full of alleged gang members were flown to El Salvador with little to no notice.
New at 4, the Supreme Court today.
Now, here, I am starting to get kind of tired. So we've gone for over 3 hours. Think if I get some sleep now, I'm actually going to be able to wake up earlier than I do on Sunday, and we can do a second stream. And we have been streaming more lately.
Woo!
He won't do it.
What's that?
You're not going to do it.
Do what?
You're not going to stream tomorrow. Watch.
You're going to be lazy.
Maybe, but
you always
we
slack,
have
Gene.
been
You're
we have been following through with we've been doing close to, like, I guess 2 streams a week on average, as opposed to 1 stream every 1.5 weeks. So
when you're not being a
Dirt
amateur.
doesn't want to recognize any sort of improvement.
Yeah, and I've been liking coming on here more.
I'm just trying to motivate you, Gene.
Yeah, Gene.
Don't trigger me,
call your
Dirt.
bluff, bitch.
Don't make me cope. Don't make me cry.
Whoa.
Yes, see, Nicholas is acknowledging we've improved. He's giving me some more, like, positive reinforcement. Yes, thank you. I guess Roster Booze, calling me old. Don't make me cry, Roster.
Man, Gene.
I'm Gene and I cry all the time. But do you have anything you want to say before we peace out?
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving. Happy New Year.
Okay,
Merry
okay. I
Christmas.
just gotta call Shab out. That is such a stupid fucking thing to say.
Dirt liked it.
You know, I was trying to think, like, should I say something ominous? Should I say something scary? Should I say something inspiring? And
Here,
like,
Shab.
Happy
Everybody
Thanksgiving.
liked that. You ruined it. You were supposed to keep it casual.
You're fired,
with the
Shab.
exit out, and that would be funny. You ruined the funny.
You're fired.
Guys, type 1 if you ruined the funny.
No, me calling you a dumb fuck makes it funnier.
That's just like your
Okay.
man.
You ready to end the stream so we can get some sleep?
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching, guys. You're all a bunch of cutie pies.